Hey guys. This is part 5 of What If Naruto Was in a Sudden Political Marriage. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 30. A Bizarre Weekends. Finished with breakfast, Naruto sat at the counter in the kitchen working on his gear. In addition to adding storage seals to his new coat, he was also trying to adjust the vest Temari was making him wear to be more comfortable. So far, he wasn't having much luck, and he was beginning to consider having some clones pound the crap out of it to loosen it up. Sitting just down the counter where she was working on her own gear, Yugao watched Naruto with barely hidden amusement. "Having trouble, Naruto-sama?" she asked slyly. "I suppose," Naruto admitted grumpily. "I just don't get how everyone wears these things all the time, they're so damn uncomfortable." Yugao stood up from her stool and wandered over to check out his vest. "Well, part of it is breaking it in. The other part is getting a vest in the right size." Naruto froze before turning towards her. "This isn't the right size?" "Well, technically it is," Yugao replied. "The standard size doesn't actually fit very well, so most experienced shinobi wear a larger size adjusted to fit." Naruto sighed and tossed the offending vest onto the counter. "I suppose this is one of those things your Jonin-sensei is supposed to share with you." Getting a nod from Yugao, Naruto groaned and rubbed his face in annoyance. "Damn it, Kakashi-sensei. Would it have killed you to do your damn job right?" The two continued to work in companionable silence for a few minutes before Naruto cleared his throat. "Hey Yugao-chan, can I ask why you keep calling me Naruto-sama?" Yugao raised an eyebrow in question. "It is the proper way to refer to one's liege, is there a problem?" Naruto shrugged uncomfortably. Well, I guess I'm just not used to it," he said. "It really sort of feels like you're talking to someone else. More that he has some issues from how he was treated before," Temari said with a yawn as she entered the kitchen. Making her way to the table, she plopped down in her chair before turning her attention back to Naruto and Yugao. "For obvious reasons, he is uncomfortable with open displays of respect, so how about I save us all some time? In public, call him Naruto-sama, at home or in private, he really prefers just Naruto." She paused to glare at the equipment on the counter. "Naruto, what have I told you about working on your gear in the dining room? Hey, you said not to do it at the table." He pointed at the counter. "This isn't the table. The letter of the law and not the spirit, huh?" Temari asked tiredly. "Whatever, I'm too hungry to care, but you'd better clean up when you're done." Naruto flashed her a bright smile. "Of course, Temari-chan. I always do. You want your usual?" "Yes, please." Naruto popped out several clones that darted into the kitchen, and he started to clean up his gear. "Got anything planned today, Temari-chan?" "Looks like I have to go trade in the vest for a larger one, and then it'll be training for me. As a matter of fact, I do have something to do today," Temari said with a sly grin. "Oh Naruto, I do have access to clan funds, right?" Yes?" Naruto replied hesitantly. That's good," Temari said with a cackle. "Can I ask why you need them?" "Well, I got to thinking after your little stunt with the council yesterday. We need a larger presence in the village for both political and practical reasons. So, easiest way to do that would be to invest in friendly businesses and to exploit the connections you've made." "Like what?" Naruto asked in confusion. "Oh, I don't know, Naruto. Can you think of any countries you may have at some point become a hero to, say like Wave and Snow?" Temari said smugly. "Or perhaps you might have certain connections to Wind?" She pointed a finger at herself with false modesty. "I'm not seeing the connection," Naruto said, still confused. "I get that people like me in Wave, Snow, and Wind, but why does that affect things here? And what does it have to do with clan funds?" "Merchants are concerned about profits," Temari replied. "However, they would jump at the chance to be associated with a fast-rising, well-known hero like you. We invest with merchants that trade with those 3 countries and make the partnership public. The money really isn't doing us any good in the bank, and this kills 2 birds with 1 kunai. We increase our wealth and public presence at the same time we increase the prosperity of the village, and we both know that Konoha needs extra income now." "That sounds really complicated and time-consuming," Naruto said evenly. "I really wouldn't know where to start or what to do." "Of course not," Temari scoffed. "That's why I'm doing it." She patted her stomach with mixed fondness and irritation. Time is one of the things I actually do have these days, and we picked up a bibliophile last night. We'll make it work. I take it you're referring to Sakura-chan, Naruto said dryly. Speaking of, shouldn't she be up by now? Don't know, don't care, Temari said grumpily as one of the kitchen clones placed a plate in front of her. Naruto groaned and let his head drop to the counter with an audible thump. I'm going to guess that the two of you are fighting again? Temari froze with her fork halfway to her mouth to eye him disdainfully. Of course not, she said with cloying sweetness. Why would I ever fight with Pinky? Oh hell, not again, Naruto muttered under his breath. Meeting Temari's gaze, he raised his voice to its normal volume. Would this not fight get better or worse if I dragged Sakura-chan off to train? If we were fighting, which we're totally not, that would make it worse, Temari replied. Awesome, Naruto said with a certain amount of dry sarcasm. At the risk of getting caught in the middle, I need to go get her up. I'm sort of stuck training her for the Chunin exams, you know. Fine, Temari grudgingly agreed. But when I get back, I want you to help me train, and I expect you, not a clone. Sure, not a problem, Naruto replied. Nico-chan, you're with Temari-chan until she gets back. He paused and his grin widened. Once you get back, we can have our sparring match. Yugao nodded her acceptance but felt she needed to point something out. Naruto, you do know that I'm not an Anbu anymore, you can call me Yugao. If anything, Naruto's grin widened. Unless it actually offends you, I sort of prefer calling you Nico-chan. Brings back memories of a certain purple-haired Anbu I liked when I was younger. You know, the one that would occasionally misdirect the Chunin chasing me? Yugao's face colored a bit at the memory. She had occasionally helped him out when he was being chased, but she hadn't expected him to remember. Ah, Nico is fine then, Naruto, she said with a soft smile. So, to be clear, I'm on guard duty for Temari-sama unless she is here on the property? Yep. Naruto, I'm pregnant, not helpless. Temari cut in with clear irritation. Yeah, I would never consider you helpless, Naruto replied evenly. But right now, I can't see you being able to defend yourself without getting hurt, or getting the twins hurt. This way, you have a shield, someone to keep enemies at a distance so you can shred them without getting hurt. Fine, Temari said with a sigh, mollified by the explanation. I suppose you have a point, I'm not very mobile right now. I reserve the right to drop anyone foolish enough to attack me though. Wouldn't even try to talk you out of it, Naruto said cheerfully as he began sealing his gear away. He motioned one of the clones that had worked on dishes in the kitchen over and handed over his vest. Take that and get the next size up, he ordered the clone. On the way back, pick up some more sealing supplies please. What? But I don't want to deal with her. The clone whined with a shudder of horror. Tenten-chan isn't that bad, Naruto somehow said with a straight face, causing his clone to glare at him. Boss, you do remember that I am you, right? Okay fine, she is that bad but she's the only shop clerk that will give us a bulk discount, Naruto said with a grimace. Just don't promise her any more explosive tags. This is a very bad idea, boss, the clone said dubiously. You do remember that you caused her to be chased naked through town yesterday, right? Oh, I forgot about that, Naruto said sheepishly. Well, we're faster than she is, don't let her pop you. Just think of it as training. I think I hate you, boss, the clone said as it turned to leave. Really, really hate you. Temari looked up from her cleared plate at a stunned-looking Yugao with amusement. Yes, he does fight with his clones and no, I don't know why. I didn't think Kage Bunshin were like that, Yugao said with some amusement. Oh, I'm sure, Temari said, rolling her eyes. After the first week here, I just got used to the fact that my husband doesn't make a lot of sense. Ha, I see how it is, Naruto said disdainfully. I don't hear you complaining when my clones do the housework and the cooking or those massages you enjoy so much. I just said I was used to it, Temari reminded him mildly. It's not normal but it's you so, meh? Hey, you married me, Naruto said with a snicker as he crossed the room to begin gently rubbing Temari's shoulders. Not by choice, she teased him back while relaxing against his hands. I seem to remember being driven to the altar at Fanpoint, Naruto retorted. Oh, you liar, Temari said, swatting at him. If I recall correctly, it was at Sandpoint. Good point, Naruto said thoughtfully. Gaara certainly did seem focused that day. He leaned over and kissed the top of her head affectionately. I'm gonna go drag Sakura out of bed and out for training, you girls have fun. Yeah, have fun with Pinky, Temari said sourly. Just remember, when I get back, I want you, not a clone. I said I would, Temari-chan. Naruto pointed out calmly. You know how I am with promises. I know, she said with a sigh. It's just I want to train with you and I can't, but Pinky gets to, and I suppose I'm a little jealous. Sorry, Temari-chan, Naruto said, wrapping her up in a hug from behind. I can't do anything about it now, but after the twins are born and you can train again, we're gonna kick ass. Going to hold you to that, Temari said quietly. Now go drag Pinky out of bed so Yugao-san and I can go run our errands. Right, errands, Naruto said, his eyes widening. He let go of Temari and turned to Yugao. Hey Nico-chan. Did you need me to send some clones to move your stuff here like I offered last night? Yugao shook her head with an amused smile. No, I didn't have much in my apartment, so I simply sealed it up last night and brought it here. Oh, okay, Naruto said, a little disappointed. Well, I guess I'll leave you ladies alone and go drag Sakura-chan out of bed. He wrapped his arms around Temari again and kissed the crown of her head affectionately. See you when you get back. After Naruto let her go and made his way upstairs, Temari sighed and pushed her plate away. She motioned for Yugao to follow her and made her way towards the front door, grabbing her fan as she went. Stepping outside, she took a deep breath and did a few light stretches before she led the way towards the front gate. You have a very interesting family dynamic, Yugao noted as she followed along alertly. Yes, I know, Temari replied with a slight grin. It can be hard living with a genius sometimes. Genius? Yugao asked in confusion. I've heard Naruto called a great many things, but not that. It fits, Temari said with a sigh of frustration. His social skills are unbelievably stunted in some aspects, but he was born to be a shinobi, even without using his clones to train. Really? Yugao asked with a hint of disbelief. It's not that I'm doubting you, Temari-sama, but wouldn't some of that show in the academy? If any instructor other than Irika had bothered to teach him, Temari said bitterly. Just look at what he could do, though. From what I've heard, before he was a genin with no control of his chakra, it took ANBU or Irika to catch him after his pranks. From what he said and what he didn't say, he usually let Irika catch him. I never really looked at it that way, Yugao said thoughtfully. You have a point, though. He shouldn't have been that hard to catch. Yeah, and then there's the way he learned tree climbing, Temari pointed out. From what Naruto and Pinky have said, Kakashi showed them once and that was all the help he gave. One of the reasons I'm not terribly fond of him, just so you know. Anyway, apparently Naruto and Sasuke team. Damn it, now he has me calling the Uchiha that. She paused and shook her fist at the house in mock anger to the amusement of Yugao. So yeah, they tied in how long it took them to learn it, but Naruto has a great deal more chakra than Uchiha does. He learned to control his chakra faster than the prodigy. There are lots of things like that. He was a failed genin that learned Kage Bunshin from a scroll inside of 2 hours. He learned the Rasengan faster than Ero Sennin. Damn it, Naruto. He does come up with some colorful and insightful nicknames, Yugao pointed out with a chuckle. I know, Temari said in annoyance. But I'm supposed to be the one influencing him, not picking up his bad traits. It works both ways, Temari-sama, Yugao said with a hint of sadness. A couple in love will inevitably become more in sync with each other. He's matured a great deal since your marriage, and you seem much happier than you were during the Chunin exams. You sound like you've watched very closely, Temari said, her curiosity aroused. I can see why you would keep an eye on Naruto, but why were you watching me? Well, I could tell you that it was part of my duty as an ANBU, but that isn't the whole story, Yugao replied after a moment. The truth is much more complicated, and I'm not sure if I should share it since it involves the former Uzumaki clan head. Okay, now I really have to know, Temari observed. If I remember correctly, Kushina-sama was the previous clan head and I know you trained with her. She stopped in the middle of the street and turned to Yugao with a thoughtful look. If I were to order you to tell me in my capacity as the new Uzumaki matriarch, would you be able to tell me? Yes, Yugao said with a slight smile for Temari's clever use of legalities. As I am a vassal of the Uzumaki clan, only Naruto's orders can override yours, Temari-sama. Did you have orders for me? Yes, I do, Temari said with a triumphant grin. Yugao, I require that you tell me why you were watching me so closely during the Chunin exams. The Uzumaki are a very pragmatic clan, Yugao said to start her story. While Kushina-sama had no idea Naruto would be orphaned on the day of his birth, She was already planning out part of his future before he was born. Oh, don't tell me. Temari groaned. I think you've guessed part of it, Yugao said with a little smirk. Yes, she convinced Minato-sama to offer a political marriage to Suna, and yes, for you. Her plan was to have the two of you meet very young and grow up knowing you would marry each other. A plan that no one but the two of them knew about that died with them, Temari said wryly. And yet, here we are now. I'm trying to draw some amusement from it, but life would have been a lot less painful if that plan had happened. My brother was a monster before he fought Naruto. Would that have still happened if they'd met as children? I know I see him as he is after growing up Shun, but I just can't see Naruto shunning Gaara back then. She sighed and resumed walking. No sense dwelling on the past, I suppose. At least it looks brighter now, Yugao commented before turning glum. I suppose I'll need to find someone to carry on my clan as well, but it's hard to let go of Hyde-kun's memory. We won't force you, Temari said, looking over her shoulder at Yugao. Despite it turning out to be a good thing, I think Naruto and I are a bit scarred from being forced to marry. But that does bring up something I was wondering about. Why didn't you come forward when Naruto was younger? Why swear as a vassal now? Well, as I said before, the Uzumaki were a very pragmatic clan. When I told Naruto that my clan were sworn vassals in Yuzu, I was shading the truth somewhat. Yugao paused to glare at a merchant who was scowling at Temari with undisguised hatred. Paling, the man ducked his head and scurried back into his shop when Yugao loosened her sword in its sheath. Ignoring the byplay as if it were beneath her notice but secretly marking the man down as the first person she intended to run out of business, Temari waited patiently for Yugao to finish her search for threats. So, the Uzumaki didn't actually require the clans themselves to swear fealty. Yugao continued. All residents of Yuzu were allowed to pledge themselves, but they were also free to not so. From what I've read in my grandfather's journal, the Uzumaki didn't want anyone swearing fealty unless it was their choice. Interestingly enough, they didn't discriminate against those that weren't oath-bound, though first opportunities did you to sworn vassals. Not sure I follow, Temari admitted. Say for example that a position as a Jonin sensei opened up. So there are 2 Jonin eligible for the position, and they are exactly equal in skill. In that case, not a realistic one I know, the vassal would get the job. Now if there was a more skilled non-vassal, they would get the position instead. So a meritocracy but with a slight advantage to their vassals. Temari mused. The more I hear about the Uzumaki clan, the more I wish there were more of them left. She patted her stomach with a grin. Though I suppose I'm working on that now. Wait, if Naruto is typical of an Uzumaki, oh no, there will be 3 of him. One of the roles of vassals was to help keep Uzumaki children under control, Yugao said with a smirk. Probably also the true reason for the limited polygamy as well. What, so they can add more children to cause chaos? Temari snarked back. Why does everyone always try to point that out to me? What will it take for people to realize that he is my baka husband? I wasn't, Yugao said, holding her hands up in surrender under the force of Temari's glare. I was just pointing out that it was probably why they had multiple spouses. Sorry, Temari muttered. I'm just sick of everyone bringing that up. Hell, half of my friends stalk him and he's spending the day with a girl who admitted to me she would do anything for him, and there is just so much I can take, you know. I mean, the only real bright side to it is that Naruto is pretty much oblivious to the girls throwing themselves at him. I mean, come on, how bad is it that I'm thankful he's socially stunted? My apologies, Temari-sama, Yugao said woodenly. I did not intend to provoke such a reaction from you. Oh, chill out, Temari said, rolling her eyes. I'm just venting. So, back to the previous conversation, why now? Because he proved himself worthy of my loyalty, Yugao said proudly, though tinged with sadness. Somehow he arranged for the man who killed Hyde-kun to offer his own life to me in compensation. Baki-sensei? Temari questioned gently. Yes, Yugao confirmed calmly. He returned Hyde's blade, and knelt at my feet to allow me to strike him down if I so chose. Why didn't you? Temari asked. I'm not sure I would restrain myself if someone killed Naruto and then offered their life to me. No, I know they would die in a great deal of agony actually. I considered it, Yugao admitted. But at that moment, I realized that revenge was useless. Baki didn't kill Hyde-kun because he hated him, he did so out of duty. I realized I could take the path of vengeance, or I could follow Naruto-sama to a brighter future. That was when I made my decision that I would honor my clan's legacy and bind myself to the Uzumaki clan. I see, Temari said softly. Well, I thank you for sparing my sensei's life. He was one of the very few that actually gave a damn about me when I was growing up. It's actually very sad that he was the killer, you know. Baki is firmly loyal to Suna, but he was always the voice on the council in favor of the alliance with Konoha. I very much doubt he took pride or joy in the kill. Yes, I know, Yugao said with a sad smile. We talked after I spared his life and he had nothing but admiration for Haikuin's skill and regret at the waste of his life. I suppose there are worse things than to be remembered as skilled by an enemy. Yugao felt a brief ki flare and smoothly moved around Temari to place herself between it and the girl. Looking up, she noted the Iwa Kunoichi glaring at Temari from across the market plaza. Ignore her, Temari said with a deliberate yawn in the other girl's direction. She wouldn't dare do anything publicly, and frankly the rock horror is not worth my time. Really wish an unpleasant death on the bitch some days though. She continued to ignore Kuratsuchi to compare the address on the gate in front of her with the card in her hand. Looks like we're here. Pardon Temari-sama, but here where? Temari shrugged as she politely knocked on the door next to the gate. Headquarters of a merchant caravan that usually trades with Wave. If they love Naruto a quarter as much as he claims, this is a very important step in that bright future you were talking about. Naruto stood in the door of Sakura's room, his arms crossed as he leaned against the door frame. He was having a hard time not laughing at Sakura as the girl hid under her blankets, perhaps thinking he would just go away. The corner of his mouth twitched upwards at the thought. Like a blanket was going to ward him off. Good morning, Sakura-chan. He sang out cheerfully. Time to rise and shine, lots of training on your first day as an Uzumaki. Go away, came the muffled response from under the blankets. I'm still sleepy. Now, Sakura-chan. I was planning on a day of mostly chakra exercises and light physical work to help you adjust, but if you want to be stubborn, I'm sure Gai-sensei would be delighted to kindle your flames of youth. The blanket twitched violently and a pair of worried green eyes came into view. You wouldn't actually do that, would you, Naruto? Sakura asked pitiably. Oh, I don't know, Naruto said with a wide evil grin. I could even add some incentive for him. Since I'm the head of the Uzumaki clan, I could always offer a marriage contract for his prize student, and I could rest easy knowing bushy brows would protect his beautiful cherry blossom forever. No! Sakura screamed, flinging herself out of the bed and tackling Naruto hard enough to throw them into the hall. You wouldn't actually do that, would you? She panted in panic from her position on top of him. Naruto looked down and promptly clapped a hand over his nose to stem a nosebleed. First, no, I guess I wouldn't, but it's an awesome threat. Second, could you please get off me and maybe, I don't know, get dressed? Sakura froze, then her gaze darted down to her body before she flushed a brilliant crimson and scuttled back into her room, slamming the door closed behind her. Well, that was interesting, Naruto muttered as he picked himself off the floor. I don't remember ever seeing Sakura-chan move that fast before. He shrugged the thought off and knocked on her door. Hey Sakura-chan, meet you on the training ground once you get dressed. Also, in the interest of avoiding a painful death at Temari's hands, that never happened, okay? Getting a muffled yes from inside the room, Naruto shook his head ruefully and with a cheerful whistle on his lips headed downstairs and outside. Making his way to the center of the training field, Naruto decided to amuse himself while he waited by practicing his new juggling skills with a few kunai. While most would scoff at the usefulness of the skill, Naruto noted that his reflexes had improved by a measurable amount since he'd learned the skill. Catching sharp, fast-moving metal and redirecting it, no, that skill would never come in handy, he thought with more than a trace of sarcasm. His concentration slipped, and he cut himself when he noticed Sakura carefully making her way towards him. Cursing under his breath and sucking on his cut thumb, he gathered up his kunai and watched her from the corner of his eye. Looking good, Sakura-chan, he said loudly when the girl paused timidly at the edge of the field. I see you're still having trouble with your balance. Is it at least better than last night? Sakura gave him a warm and genuine smile at his compliment. She changed her wardrobe to reflect her new status as an Uzumaki, and was glad that he liked it. She ditched the dress with her parents' emblem and replaced it with a sleeveless red shirt with black trim, Uzumaki's spiral located on her back in Naruto's new burnt orange color. She'd considered trying to wear a top in that color with a white spiral, but well, pink and dark orange clashed a bit. To finish off her outfit, she'd grabbed some black shorts, black boots, and a pair of black fingerless ninjutsu gloves. All in all, she thought she looked pretty serious, and even Temari had grudgingly agreed it was a good look for her. So wrapped up in the warm feelings brought on by actually being complimented on her appearance for once, Sakura almost missed the question she was asked. Doing a quick rewind in her head, she managed to answer before it got more than a momentary awkward silence. "Oh yes, it's a lot better than last night," she said, referring to her balance. "I just feel a bit unstable now." Naruto said with a frown at the news. "Well, let's get to work and see if we can fix that." After a short warm-up, Naruto made Sakura run through the basic academy taijutsu forms, causing him a great deal of irritation. "Sakura-chan, what the hell are you doing?" he finally asked in exasperation. "The academy forms like you said," Sakura snapped back. "Sakura, this is to train your body for fighting and you're focused on trying to make it look pretty." He began to pace in irritation. "Where is the pop, the snap? You think a slow block like that is going to keep you alive? I had the highest score for girls in the academy," Sakura said defensively. "This is how they taught us to do it." "Was it Mizuki?" Naruto asked with sudden insight. Yeah," Sakura replied. "Iruka was always occupied trying to keep you boys from killing each other, so he left us girls with Mizuki. And suddenly, so many things make more sense," Naruto muttered to himself. "Okay, long story short, you got screwed, but we can fix this. You have textbook form and I suck at the academy kata, but I know how to fight and you don't. Since you seem to be moving around better, I think it's time for a spar." Naruto slid into a relaxed fighting stance and motioned for Sakura to attack him. Letting her charge with an upraised fist, he smirked and pivoted forward on his foreleg and causally reached out to snag her arm. Pulling her forward and off balance, he stopped the reverse backhand when it touched her neck, kunai in the hand sticking out far enough she could see it. "And now you're dead," he said quietly. "Until I got my hands on my mother's taijutsu scroll, I thought fights were supposed to be long and cool, but they're not. When the stakes are life and death, Sakura-chan, textbook means absolutely nothing." Releasing her, he backed up and created a clone. "This clone will be your sparring partner," he told the still slightly shaking girl. "He won't be going full out on you or using weapons, but you're going to have to defend yourself. If you can pop the clone within 30 minutes, we'll start working on chakra control. If you can't," he trailed off with an amused grin. "Got it," Sakura said with determination. "Not popping clone equals pain." She gave him a fixed grin. "I suppose I'll just have to get better then." "That's the spirit, Sakura-chan," Naruto said, pleased with her reaction. 30 minutes begins. Now! He winced when the clone darted in and dropped Sakura to the ground within 5 seconds. He considered telling the clone to ease up a bit to start, but froze when he caught sight of Sakura's face. There was no give in her eyes as she dragged herself back to her feet, and the calm, calculated look she was giving his clone amused him. "Her physical skills aren't up to snuff," he though with a slight smile. "She's smart though, counting her out would be very foolish. Wonder if she'll be able to beat the clone before time's up?" Moving away to give Sakura and the clone some space to work with, Naruto popped off a dozen clones and drew a pair of kunai. He'd been a bit over-reliant on his kodachi lately, and it was time to fix that. He let out a wild laugh as the first clone attacked. Oh, but he loved training. "So, I have some interesting news," Asuma drawled lazy to his team as they sat in their favorite restaurant. "As of tomorrow, you will have a temporary sensei getting you ready for the Chunin exams in Suna." Ignoring the protests from Choji and Ino, Shikimura locked eyes with his sensei. "It's Naruto, isn't it?" he asked, casually shutting Ino and Choji up. "It is," Asuma confirmed with a nod. "I'm curious how you knew with only that statement for clues." "He's troublesome like that," Shikimura said with a sigh. "It doesn't hurt that whenever we deal with Suna, he's always involved. I assume Sakura will be taking my spot for the exams?" "Really?" Ino cut in excitedly. "That's pretty cool, but does Naruto even know how to train someone?" "Who knows?" Asuma said with a shrug. "From what I understand, he's spending today getting Sakura up to speed." "Poor Sakura," Choji chimed in. "I've seen what Naruto considers training, he's nuts. You seem to be missing the fact that you'll have to deal with it after today," Asuma pointed out in amusement. "Oh, I'm aware of it," Choji replied. "But tomorrow is another day and I'm trying not to think about it right now." "Bah, you're almost as lazy as Shikamaru," Ino sighed with fond annoyance. "Hey Asuma-sensei, can we go check things out once we get done with lunch? I want to see what we'll be dealing with tomorrow." "Yes, I'm sure that's your only reason," Shikamaru noted lazily, getting a blush from Ino. Ignoring him, "Can we please Asuma-sensei?" I don't see why not, and I want to check on how his wind element training is progressing anyway. Asuma took a drag on his cigarette and regarded his team thoughtfully. Matter of fact, I don't see any reason he can't take responsibility for you guys today. You'll still meet with us? Ino asked shyly. I wouldn't want you to just forget about us. Of course, Asuma said with a chuckle. Trust me, Ino, I couldn't forget about this team even if I tried. Way to ruin the moment, sensei. Ino pouted. You're supposed to be sad about this. It's not like he won't be keeping an eye on us. Shikamaru pointed out. He just can't admit it. It's a guy code violation. That's not even a real thing. Ino protested. Yes, it is, Choji remarked. It may be unwritten, but it does exist. Tell me you don't have a girl code. I suppose, Ino said grudgingly. You know it wouldn't kill you guys to actually admit your feelings about things. Asuma, Choji, and Shikamaru exchanged amused glances. Possibly, Asuma admitted. But why take the chance? Temari winced and slowly slid her fan closed, taking care to not make any sudden moves. Following her lead, Yugao relaxed her grip on her katana and the pair watched the ANBU surrounding them calmly. Behind Temari was a straight line of destruction, several shop stalls only existing as piles of debris. The two traded glances as Tsunade arrived flanked by two more ANBU, and Temari began to regret using as much force as she had. So I received a report of a clan-related incident, Tsunade said crossly. I was expecting to find Naruto, not you, Temari-san. Explain yourself. The drunk grabbed my ass, Temari said defiantly. When Yugao grabbed his arm, he pulled a knife on her. Given that she is a former ANBU operative, I'm still waiting on the explanation for that, Tsunade said, pointing at Temari's handiwork. He called us the demon's whores, Yugao said flatly. Yelled that he would kill us before he allowed the demon to breed. I was surprised enough to let go of his arm, and Temari-sama reacted forcibly to the threat. Is that so? Tsunade asked, her eyes narrowed in suspicion. Yes, Hokage-sama, Temari replied. I realize I used more force than required, but he threatened my babies. Take him to Ibiki, Tsunade ordered. You two come with me. Falling into step behind her, Temari and Yugao exchanged worried glances. It seemed they were in for a more private conversation, and that was rarely a good thing. Reaching a secluded area of a nearby park, Tsunade turned on them. So, how much of that story was true? She demanded. He didn't touch me, Temari admitted. He approached me and made comments about buying me from the demon, and I told him where to stick it. That's when he spouted off about the stuff about me being a demon's whore, and he did threaten my babies. I see, Tsunade said slowly. Your role in this, Yugao-san? Hokage-sama, I placed myself between Temari-sama and the threat, but as things were not physical, I was unable to act. I shoved her out of the way when I went for my fan, Temari added. I can't help but wish you'd found another way to deal with this, Tsunade said after a drawn-out silence. He did pull the knife and threatened to kill you before you reacted, though, correct? Yes, Hokage-sama, Temari and Yugao replied in unison. Fine, the idiot will be dealt with, but your clans are responsible for the damages, Temari. If something like this happens again, I will be forced to be less forgiving, understand? Yes, Hokage-sama, they replied in unison again. Go home, I'll have someone drop off a list of damages, Tsunade said tiredly. She stepped forward and pulled a surprised Temari into a hug. You do whatever you need to protect yourself and your babies, she whispered in the girl's ear. If there is a next time, don't do it so publicly. Yes, Hokage-sama, a dazed Temari replied when she was released from the hug. I'll try to keep that in mind. Why did you just hug me? I'm fond of the brat, Tsunade said over her shoulder as she left. That so didn't answer the question. Temari fumed as she turned to head back to the compound. How does liking Naruto equal hugging me? She doesn't even really like me. Where did you get that idea? Yugao asked, giving Temari a sidelong glance. I don't know, Temari mumbled. I just always got the feeling she didn't really like me. This wouldn't be because she's the closest thing you have to a mother-in-law? Yugao asked with a chuckle. No. Yes. Maybe, I don't know, Temari admitted. I just feel like she's always judging me. Don't know what to tell you, Yugao said with a shrug. Comforting, Temari said dryly. Let's just get home. Team 10 entered the Namikaze estate at a relaxed pace. It was Choji's first visit, so Ino was pointing out the visible points of the garden even though he wasn't all that interested in plants. Ha, gotta try harder than that. They heard Naruto's shout from the still hidden training field. Oh, you almost got me there, maybe next time. Bring the field into view. Team 10 was greeted with the familiar sight of Sakura chasing Naruto. What was different was when he swept her legs out from under her and tossed her across the field. Well, that's something you don't see every day, Ino said flatly. Ah, but that might change, Asuma pointed out in amusement. If he's throwing her around like that, I'm curious what he has in store for you. And now I think I hate you again, Ino retorted. Come on guys, let's go say hi. Pulling herself off the ground again, Sakura glared at Naruto and took a moment to catch her breath. I'm not sure this is training and not justification for me to kill you in your sleep, she panted. Training, of course, the unwinded Naruto replied with a broad smile. You're doing a lot better than when we started, I'm just tricky. Sakura growled and mentally visualized strangling Naruto as she pulsed her chakra. To her surprise, what appeared to be a chain made of chakra whipped out at Naruto, forcing him to roll to avoid it. Hey, what the hell was that? Naruto yelled excitedly. That was freaking awesome. Those were chakra chains. Kakashi called from his place up in a nearby tree. They were something of a specialty of your mother's. Kakashi-sensei? Sakura questioned. How long has he been there? Meh, he got here just after we started training, Naruto said, moving over to stand by her. I was wondering if he was actually gonna say something, like why he was here. Ma, that's hurtful, Naruto, Kakashi said without looking up from his book. Can't a sensei check up on his cute little students? I guess, but wouldn't such a sensei actually help those old students? Naruto said crossly. You had it under control, Kakashi said, glancing up from his book with an eye smile. When you actually needed help, I provided it. He's got a point, Asuma pointed out as his team made its way closer. Said the lazy sensei about the even lazier sensei, Naruto retorted dryly. So, when did this turn into a convention anyway? We just came to check up on how the training was going, Ino said. And you were really rough on Sakura there, Naruto. Don't think you'll get away with doing that to us. Oh really? Naruto replied, his eyes narrowing and an evil grin making its way to his face. She's improved a great deal today, especially considering she had a hard time walking when we started. Oh Kami, Ino blurted, her cheeks crimson. I knew you welcomed her to the Uzumaki clan last night, but that was too much information. Say what? Naruto asked in confusion when Sakura flushed red and Asuma rolled his eyes. Pig! That wasn't the reason why! Sakura screamed. The adoption ritual just messed with my balance. Oh? Ino said, now nearly matching Sakura's new shade of red. Is that why you have red in your hair? More or less yes, but clan secrets and all that, Sakura replied haughtily. Couldn't tell you unless you joined the family. Which isn't happening anytime soon, Temari said, breaking in as she arrived. Naruto, has ANBU delivered any messages while I was gone? Nope, was just me and Sakura-chan till everyone showed up, but you missed this really cool thing Sakura-chan just did. Yes, that's nice, dear, Temari said, rolling her eyes. So, what are we going to do with so many people here? Same thing I do every day, Naruto said with a maniacal smile. Train! After spending the rest of the afternoon forcing all of his guests to train with him, Naruto took a break in the garden as the girls bickered somewhere on what to prepare for such a large dinner gathering. He glanced up when Shikamaru joined him on the bench. Hey Shikamaru, what's up? Naruto, Shikamaru said, looking unusually focused. I may not show it much, but I am rather fond of my team. Sure, Naruto replied, confused. What about it? I want you to promise me that you will do everything in your power to get them ready for the exams and to bring them back alive. I promise to train them as best I can, but Shikamaru, I can't promise they'll come out of the exams in one piece. A sensei does what they can, but eventually they must simply have faith in their students, Asuma said, joining the conversation and startling both boys. If you train them with the intensity you showed today, I have faith that they will come out on top. I wish I was going with them, Shikamaru muttered. It's troublesome to let them go without me. More troublesome than going through the exam a second time, Naruto teased. Maybe not, Shikamaru admitted with a chuckle. So, my keenly honed senses tell me that dinner is about ready if you guys want to go in. I've got a few things to do out here though. Okay, see you in a bit, Naruto, Shikamaru replied as he and Asuma headed inside. So, did you need me for something, Reynard? Naruto asked the bushes where a familiar red and gray head appeared. Good evening, Naruto-sama. The fox greeted him. I hope I am not intruding. Not really, Naruto answered. Gotta go inside for supper before Temari-chan comes hunting, but I'm safe for a few minutes. What's up? I'm not sure how to ask this, Reynard replied. As the Uzumaki clan head, would you be willing to accept non-human vassals? Naruto sat up straight, startled by the implications of those words. He racked his brain trying to remember if there was ever a mention of something like that in his mother's journal before shrugging it off with a mental reminder that he was the clan head now. If you're offering what I think you're offering, I have some questions for you, he said, buying some time to organize his thoughts. Ask them, the fox responded. Have you discussed this with the other kitsune? I don't want a repeat of that revolt, and you can't afford to lose many more of your pack. Yes, this was the collective decision, Reynard said, meeting Naruto's eyes evenly. To answer another question you haven't asked? Yes, we are still willing to work with the Inuzuka, but such a partnership would not release the oath to you. Conflicted loyalties are bad, Naruto said sharply. Certainly, Naruto-sama, but while we would be willing to work with the Inuzuka, we would only be loyal to you and your line. That bothers me a bit, Naruto admitted. But it's not a deal breaker as long as it can discuss it with Tsum. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. I need to head inside, Reynard, but would you be able to gather the remaining kitsune up in 3 days? I'm comfortable with you, but for something like this, I would like to meet with the others. As you wish, Naruto-sama, Reynard replied, dipping his head. Nightfall in 3 days here in the garden? Yeah, that should work out, I think, Naruto said, standing up. Reynard, you know I trust you, but you understand why I wish to meet with the others? Of course, the fox responded easily. I am quite pleased you wish to discuss this with the others and that you are even considering it. Naruto-sama, your mate is incoming. I shall see you then. Naruto chuckled as the fox made a hasty retreat. Turning around, he found Temari standing there with her hands on her hips. Fortunately for him, she seemed more curious than pissed, so he strolled over and linked his arm with hers and headed to the house. So Temari-chan, how do you feel about adding more vassals? Chapter 31, Interlude. It sucks to be a clone. Sometimes it really sucked being a clone. The first part of the job hadn't sounded that bad. Go trade in the old vest for a new vest. Sure, dealing with the armory guys was a pain in the ass, but whatever. It was the second part the clone really had trouble with. Tenten liked pointy and explodey things, and he was fairly sure she wasn't very happy with the boss right now. Arriving at the armory, the clone took his place at the end of the line, kinda curious as to why there was a line in the first place. Shifting so he could take a look, his eyes widened when he saw Guy and Lee excitedly gesturing at the desk clerk and pointing at the cart of items behind them. Some brilliant individual had set some sort of silencing seal on the two green-clad idiots, but no, that wouldn't keep them from being annoying. Sighing, the clone prepared himself for a very long wait before the hair on his neck prickled. Shooting a quick glance around, he found Niji glaring at him from near the exit. Niji, the clone called. If you're looking for the green guys, they're the ones holding up the line. The clone watched as Niji stalked towards him. He couldn't help feeling nervous because Niji looked really upset about something. I know that you were the one responsible, Niji flatly stated once he got close enough. Responsible for what? The clone replied. For my utter humiliation yesterday, Niji said with a bit of crimson in his cheeks. Because of you, I was stripped and left naked in a training field. What does that have to do with me? It was Hinata-sama that did it, a naked Hinata-sama, Niji all but hissed. Still think this has nothing to do with you? I'm just a clone. After Niji stalked off, the Naruto clone was forced to wait another hour before he finally reached the desk. Hi, I just need to trade this vest in for the next size up, he said with a polite smile at the desk clerk. You'll need to fill out Form 7D, the clerk said, riffling though the folders on his desk and handing over said form. Thanks, the clone said, grabbing a pen from the cup on the desk. I'm sorry, but you need to fill that out somewhere else, the clerk said stiffly. All paperwork is required to be filled out before this point. The clone turned to see the line behind him had already refilled, and he shot the clerk a disbelieving look. Are you serious? He asked. This will take a few minutes tops. I was in line for hours. The rules are the rules. Next. Grumbling under his breath, The clone moved out of the way and rapidly filled out the required form before reluctantly joining the line again. After another extremely boring hour, Naruto found himself standing at the desk again. Okay, so form and vest, the clone said, handing them over. I'm sorry, but all items must be returned in the same condition as issued. This vest appears to have marking on it. Are you fucking serious? The clone shouted. Those are storage seals. Any field ninja would be delighted to have them, you stupid desk ninja. With an irritated expression, the desk clerk pushed his glass firmly against his face as he prepared to wage bureaucratic warfare. I'm sorry, Uzumaki-san, he said with brittle politeness. Until those are removed, I have no choice but to refuse this vest. Next! Now utterly furious, the clone snatched the vest and the form from the desk and stomped over to a nearby work table. Over the next 2 hours he carefully removed every modification the boss had made to the vest, and even polished it up so the REMF couldn't complain. Finished, he looked up and was relieved to see that there was hardly any line. Hopefully he would be done with this nightmare soon. Slapping the items on the desk, the clone glared at the clerk. They're completely clean, form filled out, can I just get the replacement vest and go please? He managed to grind out somewhat politely. The clerk picked up the vest and carefully examined it, then took a moment to review the filled out form. Yes, it seems that everything is in order here. You said you required another vest? Yes, please. The clerk placed the vest down beside him and pulled out a form. Rapidly writing across it, he tore off a section and handed it over before pulling the vest up and handing it over as well. Your vest and receipt, Uzumaki-san. Have a nice day. Did you just give me the same vest I turned in? The clone asked in a slow, calm manner. Of course, the clerk said. You requested an exchange and I simply gave you the vest in the best mechanical condition. The rules require it. A burst of killer intent poured from the clone, flattening everyone in the room as its eyes flickered between red and blue. I said I required a size larger, the clone roared. This is the same vest. Unlike the others in the room, the clerk was fairly accustomed to KI, so rather than being totally incapacitated, he was able to hit the alarm button before he froze up. In response, an ANBU popped up behind the desk and froze when he felt the KI. Looking at the clerk, the form in the clone's hands and the vest, the ANBU shook his head. You know, he said, crossing his arms and glaring at the clerk through his mask. I've told you it's a bad idea to piss off the combat shinobi. Why aren't you stopping him? The clerk got out weakly. I'm not a fan of dying a horrid, painful death. You pissed him off, you deal with it. Struggling to move, the clerk slowly dragged out a slightly larger vest and dumped it on the table in front of the still fuming clone. There, take it and go, he croaked. See, was that so hard? The clone said, swapping the vests. Have a nice day, he commented sarcastically. Turning around, he found himself facing an ANBU squad, an apparently annoyed ANBU squad at that. Hi guys, he said, holding his hands and the new vest up above his head in surrender. You should know, I'm just a clone. Chapter 32, The Quiet Before the Storm. Naruto sat on the edge of his newly constructed dock. Genin's slave labor was awesome, relaxing as the gentle breeze blew through his hair. No one was ever going to accuse him of being a quiet person, but since starting his meditation training, he'd come to enjoy quiet moments like this. Perhaps especially as an escape from the daily pressures he was facing now. Training a Genin squad, even one already mostly trained, was draining. Add in the training from hell the toads ran him through on a daily basis, and a very pregnant, very cranky, mood-swinging Temari, and yes, these quiet times were nice. Not for the first time during one of these moments, he evaluated his dream of being Hokage. These sorts of pressures and worse were a certainty for the job, but Naruto found himself even more determined about his goal, if that was even possible. In a way, it had even shifted the reasons for the goal in a more positive direction. Young, naive Naruto wanted to be Hokage so that people would recognize and value him. A slightly more mature Naruto wanted to protect the village. Now, he still wanted to protect the village if necessary, but he wanted more, to be a role model and inspiration. Someone that the younger generations would look up to and strive to be like, similar to how the Sandaime had inspired him. May I join you? He heard, breaking him out of his thoughts. Looking up, he gave Ino a smile and patted the dock next to him cheerfully, ignoring the mild glare he received in return. Sure, have a seat, Ino-chan. Sure is a very nice dock, isn't it? I still can't believe you made us build it, Ino grumbled, sitting down next to him and getting comfortable by hugging her knees to her chest. It wasn't exactly exam-level training now, was it? Say what you want, Naruto said with a shrug and slight grin. You guys were having trouble working as a squad without Shikamaru giving the orders, so I forced you to do an activity that would require teamwork. Sure, Ino said, rolling her eyes. And the fact that you got a dock on your pond from it was just happy coincidence, right? Absolutely, Ino-chan, Naruto replied with a dazzling smile. He studied her profile for a few moments as Ino stared off over the water. Something on your mind, Ino-chan? You seem a bit off. I don't know, Naruto, Ino said with a sigh. Do you think we'll be ready for the exams? We only have a bit under a month before we have to leave for Suna. Judging from the way you guys trashed Team 8 yesterday, I would have to say yes, Naruto said lightly. Of course, if you really want a challenge, I could suggest a sparring match with Team 9. Ino jerked her head over to stare at him, horror written across her face. You wouldn't do that to us, would you? She asked, her eyes wide and pleading. I'm considering it, Naruto admitted. I'm trying to balance out how much Gai-sensei and Lee disturb me, with how much you guys could learn from sparring them. Ugh, too much green, Ino muttered with a shudder. Tenten is pretty cool though. It was Naruto's turn to shudder, a fact not missed by Ino. What's the matter, Naruto? Does Tenten scare you? She teased. You have no idea, Naruto replied flatly. Do you have any idea how many times she's almost blown me up? I might, Ino said with a grin. Every time us girls get together, all she can talk about is how much she just loves your explosive tags. There is a reason Bachan won't let me sell her anymore, Naruto said with a wince. Not since that time she stored a book of them in one of her seals and activated all of them at the same time accidentally. Bachan wasn't pleased at the new crater in Training Ground 15, and I was not happy she made me fix it without using any clones. Damn old hag. Ino laughed at the disgruntled look on Naruto's face, the sound ringing out pleasantly over the pond. Getting her mirth under control, she propped one hand under her chin and studied Naruto, her eyes still sparkling a bit with laughter. You know, I actually want to thank you, she said shyly. I know how busy you are, but as hard as the last 2 months have been, I think our whole team learned a lot. I knew I'd have to step up my training after I tied with forehead in the last exams, but Asuma-sensei didn't ever really push us. I'm really not sure what to think about the Jonin-sensei, Naruto admitted a bit bitterly. The only one I know of that actually pushes their team is Gai-sensei, and he's nuts. I know of another, Ino said with a grin. There's this old classmate of mine, got stuck with the team right. He's stern and strict with the training, and there are times we hate his guts, until we see how far we've advanced. So then we think about the good things like his willingness to always help and explain things, sometimes even stuff he doesn't have any clue about. She paused with a smug look when Naruto bristled defensively. It was one time, he protested. One time? Are you ever going to let that go? Since it caused Sakura to land you in the hospital, not likely. Now hush, I was talking, Ino said with a snicker. I had my doubts when Asuma-sensei said that you would be taking over our team temporarily, but I was wrong, Naruto. You've done a fantastic job. I'm just worried about the exams, I think. Did you just resolve your doubts on your own? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow and an amused expression. I guess I did, Ino mused, getting to her feet. Part of it was you though. I feel more confident when I talk with you. Before she stopped to think about it, she closed the distance between them and planted a kiss on his cheek. So, thanks again, Naruto-sensei, she said cheekily. Sure, anytime, Ino-chan, Naruto replied with a grin of his own. Still, you might want to look behind you. Ino flinched and slowly turned around, revealing Temari standing there with her hands on her hips. Ino flashed her a weak grin. Hi Temari, I was just talking to Naruto about teams and was just leaving. Yep, just leaving. Temari raised her hand and crooked her finger at Ino, ordering her to come to her. Ino's shoulders slumped, and she moved towards Temari with the aura of a condemned prisoner. Ino, Temari said quietly once the other girl was standing in front of her. I'd like to think I'm a tolerant woman. Do you think I'm a tolerant woman? Yes, Ino said, nodding her head vigorously. Very kind and tolerant. In fact, you are a fount of tolerance, I kid you not. Ino, shut up, Temari said flatly, massaging her temple wearily. I'm not actually all that irritated at you kissing his cheek, and you know I've allowed you to hug him, but you've been getting a little handsy lately. I know, I'm sorry, Ino said dejectedly. It's just that the more I work with him, the more magnetic his personality is. I really love him, Temari, and I just keep falling more and more for him, but I don't want to interfere with the two of you, and it's just really hard. Temari shot a glance up to where Naruto was pointedly ignoring their conversation before glancing back at Ino. Walk with me, Ino, she suggested, turning around and heading back into the garden. With a last longing glance at Naruto, Ino followed after, her curiosity aroused by Temari's desire to talk away from Naruto. Given how much effort he put into ignoring serious conversations between the girls in his life, Ino really wondered about why Temari didn't want him to overhear at all. I know what it's like to fall head over heels with him, Temari said once Ino caught up to her. As much as he annoys me sometimes, I truly love my husband, but I'm a bit concerned. About what? Ino asked, bewildered. When I first told him I loved him, I told him he didn't have to respond. Temari said slowly. I know that with his childhood, it wasn't something he would really get, but it's been 2 months and he still hasn't responded. Now I'm all fat and bloated and he has pretty girls like you obviously interested, and it's just so damn frustrating. Ino said, several things becoming clear to her. You know, I think you're overthinking this, Temari. That's easy for you to say. Temari shot back in a near hiss. You don't look like this. She finished waving a hand at herself. All right, enough with the self-pity, Ino replied tartly. So he hasn't told you he loves you, big fucking deal. He showers you with attention and affection. It doesn't matter what he's doing, if you want him, you get the real him and not a clone like the rest of us. Every damn woman in the village dreams that their boyfriend, husband, partner or whatever would show them half the attention Naruto gives you. It's true. Yugao spoke up from a nearby bench, startling both girls. Yugao gave them a cheerful smile and went back to examining the blade of her sword. Most of the women in the village are just a bit jealous, Temari-sama. Haikun was an excellent boyfriend and I miss him dearly, but even he didn't cater to my needs like Naruto does for you. Then why can't he just spit it out? Temari asked in exasperation. Yugao tilted her head at Temari curiously. Why are you asking questions? You already have the answer for Temari-sama. Temari ignored the muffled snickering from Ino to glare at her constant shadow. Yes, I know, his childhood left him with issues, he doesn't really understand love, I know, but would it be so bad for him to just say it? If you believe you would enjoy empty words, Reynard said, poking his head out of the bushes and joining the conversation. When did this turn into a damn convention? Temari groused before turning her attention to Reynard. I take it you have your own input to this private conversation, Reynard? Indeed, Temari-sama, the fox replied seriously. Naruto-sama was damaged by the events of the past far more than he would ever admit. I have been inside his mind and there are dangerous things there beyond Kyubi-sama. Things born of the darkness in human hearts. Ino and Yugao stared at Reynard in confusion, but Temari had an expression of grim understanding. He repressed the emotions, didn't he? She said unhappily. That's how he avoided ending up like Gaara, but I assume from what you're saying, they are still festering? I am unsure, Reynard admitted. I merely caught a glimpse when I was in Naruto-sama's mind, but I would assume the cure for hate is love. Wait, what? Ino butted in. I was in his head too, and I never saw anything like that. One would assume that you may have been focused on Kyubi-sama, Ino-san, Reynard replied calmly, causing Ino to shudder at the memory. As much as I do appreciate the insight, should you be speaking of your liege like this? Temari asked, hinting what she meant by flicking her eyes towards Ino. I don't see why not, Reynard replied slyly. Everyone here is involved. A vassal. He pointed his snout at Yugao. A mate. Indicating Temari. A potential mate. Indicating Ino, causing Temari to glare as the blonde gave her a sheepish grin. And the man in the tree is more concerned than he chooses to appear. Man in the tree? Temari repeated, glancing around like the other kunoichi before Yugao uttered a muffled curse and pointed out Kakashi sitting in a nearby tree. Damn it, Kakashi-senpai. Yugao called out at the man. You could have told us you were here. But I hear so many interesting things when I don't. Kakashi retorted without looking up from his book. He seemed like he was about to say something else before his head snapped up and he ducked around the side of the tree in a hurry. Temari was given only a second or two to boggle at the disappeared Jonin before Guy popped up in front of her with a blindingly white smile. Good afternoon to you. May I inquire as to the whereabouts of your most youthful husband? He boomed out politely, giving Temari a thumbs up. Temari muttered under her breath about random people showing up in her yard before giving the man a polite smile while kicking Ino when she hid from Guy behind her. Certainly, Guy-san, he was just down on the dock by the pond. May I inquire as to why you need him? Certainly. I wish to test my team's flames of youth against his team. I understand that they are becoming most youthful. Temari tried hard not to laugh, made harder by the sound of Ino whimpering behind her. A sudden thought struck her, and she looked around curiously. Gai-san, I can't help but notice that you're missing Lee today. Naruto didn't challenge him to hide and seek in the forest with his clones again, did he? No, Gai replied cheerfully. Lee-kun is composing a most youthful love song for his beloved Cherry Blossom. His pride in his student blinded him to the horrified looks Temari and Yugao shot him, or the fact Ino was laughing so hard she was crying. Gai-san, Temari managed to grind out, somehow still polite. Please remind Lee that he is not allowed to serenade Pinky when I am trying to sleep. Please remind him that the next time he does so, not only will I blast him away with my fan after summoning Gamabunta to sit on him, but I'll also allow Yugao to do whatever she wants to him, and I'm pretty sure it involves her sword and his vocal cords. Right, Gai said, sweat dropping at the killer intent from the two aggravated women. I shall certainly pass that along to my student. Now I must bid you farewell. With a deep polite bow, Gai made his way towards the pond and Temari held up her hand, ticking her fingers down. Her timing was very accurate as the moment she dropped her last finger, a loud startled yell was heard from Naruto. Seriously, don't do that! Oh, youthful student of my hip and cool rival, I challenge you and your team! Let us strengthen our students' flames of youth with honorable combat! Whatever Naruto replied was unheard but apparently pleased Gai. Excellent! I am pleased the flames of youth burn brightly within you. Ga! Stop trying to hug me! A orange and black blur zipped by the kunoichi, followed closely by a larger green one. Yash, what an excellent idea, shall we race? The orange blur came to a stop, revealing Naruto with a sickly horrified expression on his face as he looked around for some sort of escape. Spotting Kakashi still hiding behind the trunk of his tree, a truly evil smile appeared on his face. I'm sorry, Gai-sensei, but I would hate to take my sensei's place as your rival. He ignored the frantic gestures from Kakashi as Gai slowed and regarded him curiously. After all, I'm Lee's eternal rival, not yours. I would not wish to steal my pupil's rival. Gai conceded, looking somewhat sad. If only my eternal rival was here so that I could challenge him. Well, what do you know? Naruto said, pointing at a glaring Kakashi with an evil grin. There he is now. Why, thank you, Naruto-kun, Gai said happily when he spotted a paling Kakashi. I'll be sure to let your rival know that he should challenge you once he is done composing his new ballad for the fair Sakura-san. Wait, another one? Naruto asked, making a face before the rest of the message sank in. No, you really don't have to do that, he said hastily. Nonsense, Gai boomed, clapping Naruto on the shoulder almost hard enough to knock him into the ground. Rivals keep our youthful flames burning strong, Naruto-kun. He dropped his voice to a much quieter level for Naruto only. You still need practice against strong taijutsu practitioners, Naruto-kun, and Lee-kun needs experience against strong ninjutsu users. After you've advanced your taijutsu against Lee, I can teach you the more advanced Uzumaki forms. Naruto blinked at the sudden change in demeanor and tone from Gai, reminded once again that no matter how bizarre the man acted, he was an elite jonin with the skills to match. Gai-sensei, how do you know Uzumaki forms? Naruto asked, taking advantage of Gai's calmer state. Your mother, Gai replied with a grin. She knew of my love of taijutsu and it amused her to share with me. Now if you'll excuse me, it seems my rival is attempting to escape. And just like that, the normal Gai returned as he chased off after Kakashi, leaving a bemused Naruto behind. Walking over to where Temari, Ino, Reynard and Yugao were watching him curiously, Naruto grinned at them. So, did you guys catch the part about Lee writing another ballad for Sakura-chan? He shuddered at the memory of the last time. I wasn't that bad, was I? Writing and singing songs, no, Ino said, rolling her eyes. The rest of it, yeah, pretty much, but you got better. So, did I hear that right? You agreed that my team would spar with his? Yeah, Naruto replied, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. You know, Gai-sensei, no way to avoid it really, but I didn't agree to a time, so if we're lucky, I can stall him until after the exams. Oh, thank Kami, Ino breathed, slumping bonelessly onto one of the garden benches. So many fashion laws being violated by that team. Still overly concerned with fashion, flower girl. Temari snorted, moving over to snuggle with her husband a little, mindful of Reynard's comment about love being the best cure for hate. And here I was almost beginning to respect you as a kunoichi. Hey! Ino blurted. I've been taking my training seriously, but fashion is important, fangirl. Without fashion, we might as well be boys. Oh, Temari-sama does like fashion. Yugao commented with a smirk. Ask me about the time she spent 2 hours in the lingerie shop. Hey, not in front of him. Temari hissed, turning a brilliant shade of red when Naruto quirked an eyebrow at her. Leaning in, she whispered something in his ear that caused a dazed look and goofy grin to appear on his face. Oh, Ino wants to know. Ino said childishly, mildly jealous at how easily Temari distracted Naruto. But perhaps another time. She amended when Temari glared at her. That may be best. Yugao said, still smirking. Perhaps at the next kunoichi poker night? This time it was her turn to get a glare from Temari. You know what, if you guys are going to be like that, I'm just gonna take my toys and go home. Temari said, starting to drag Naruto off towards the house, breaking him out of his stupor. Hey, I'm not a toy. He protested. I suppose an exchange is in order. Temari said with a sparkle in her eyes. If you give me a massage before dinner, I'll be so very grateful. Watching the goofy look return to his face, Ino turned to Yugao and rolled her eyes as the couple wandered off. And she worries that he'll be interested in other girls because she's pregnant. Did you see how fast she wrapped him around her finger? It goes both ways, Yugao said with a shrug. Temari-sama wasn't joking at all when she said she was madly in love with him. She was nearly impossible to deal with when he took your team out for that weekend survival trip. She was extremely jealous you and Sakura were with him, not that she'd admit it, and mornings where she doesn't get to cuddle with him are rough. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Ino asked with some concern. It'll even out. Yugao reassured the younger kunoichi. You have to make some allowances for the pregnancy mood swings and that they've been married less than a year, with Naruto out of the village for a bit over 2 months of that time. It doesn't help what with all the women petitioning her to be allowed to be his second wife. Yugao made a point to stare directly at Ino for the last comment. Hey, don't look at me like that. I don't pester her about it, and I try to avoid crossing any lines, but yeah, as you know, I really want them. To join them, I mean. She said, blushing a bit at her slip. I believe that you are probably the most compatible with them. Reynard commented from where he was laying with his head on his paws. I believe that Temari-sama will accept you once she becomes more secure in her relationship, but for now you'll simply have to be patient. Yes, I know that, Ino replied. But it's hard, especially since I see the seal he put on me to block off the Kyuubi's chakra as a promise of sorts, you know, marking his territory. Oh, now that's interesting, Yugao said with a raised eyebrow. I didn't take you for the bottom, but you're just full of surprises, aren't you? And that's my cue to leave, Reynard said, getting to his feet. As little as I care about human sexuality, I do prefer not to listen to it. It's not a bad thing, Ino protested after the fox left. And I have no idea what I like. It's not like I have experience, Yugao-san. It's just the thought of him marking me as his is a little exciting. Oh, I certainly wasn't judging, Yugao replied. There were times it was fun to play like that with hate, but I think it's the trust between partners that makes it enjoyable. If you have that trust, you can relax and be whatever the hell you want to be with them, and it won't matter worth a damn elsewhere. Yeah, Ino said with a bright blush. As much as I appreciate the support and advice, can we spar? My sensei just got dragged off by his wife and I have no clue where my teammates are. That's cause today was supposed to be your day off, but don't worry, I'd be glad to help you, Yugao said, standing up with a very toothy grin. Just so you know, I like to train with Anko. Ah crap, Ino exclaimed, realizing what she'd just done. I don't suppose we could talk fashion, flowers or boys instead? Nope, Yugao replied, taking a test swing with her katana. Now I'd start running if I were you. Naruto hummed to himself as he worked in the kitchen. He usually had his clones do most of the cooking, but there were certain things he preferred to do himself, like the chocolate cake he was in the process of frosting while protecting it from Temari with his body. Which might not be healthy for him if she decided she was sick of waiting for the cake to be done, he mused as he put the finishing touches on it. Done, he carefully lifted the platter holding the cake and presented it to the great devouring beast, or his beloved wife. Cutting out a big piece for her, he got a kick out of watching her eyes roll back in her head as she moaned in pleasure when she took her first bite. You would think I hadn't just made you one of those a few days ago, he teased his wife gently. Pregnant, Temari mumbled around between bites with a mock glare at Naruto. Can't help it. I seem to remember someone having a bit of a sweet tooth before, Naruto retorted, being careful to stay out of stabbing range. Sometimes, Temari admitted, eyeing the distance between her husband and her cake warily. You're getting awfully close to my cake, husband. You mean the cake I made? Naruto asked innocently, shifting forward a little to subtly threaten the cake. Mine now! Temari declared, sliding the tray away from Naruto. Hey Naruto, can I ask you something? Some of Naruto's grin slipped from his face as he registered the serious tone. Sure, Temari-chan, you can ask me anything. Well, Temari said, not sure how to ask before deciding to just be direct. Do you ever think about your childhood? Like how you felt at being treated the way you were? Not usually, Naruto replied, perplexed at the question. It's all in the past, even if there are those that still hate me. I have precious people and the number keeps growing, so who cares about them? I see, Temari replied, biting her lip as she thought. Reynard said that there was darkness in you, a darkness born of human hatred, not the Kyuubi. Reynard said, huh? So what do you think? Naruto asked. Me? I think that you probably never dealt with your feelings from back then, but I don't really know what Reynard means by what he said. Should probably talk to the fox and find out. Naruto muttered to himself, as he racked his brain for the meaning behind the words. Yeah, I'll go have a chat with him about it sometime soon, I guess, Naruto said louder for Temari. Temari eyed the remainder of the cake wistfully and set her plate down with a sigh. Pulling herself to her feet, she slowly made her way around the table to grab Naruto's arm and drag him after her to the living room. Sitting him on the couch, she sat down next to him and tucked her feet up under herself before leaning against him to use him as a pillow. If you want to, she said, wiggling a little to find a comfortable spot while he wrapped his arm around her shoulders. Doesn't really matter to me, I'm stuck with you no matter what. You make it sound like a chore, Naruto said with a chuckle, running his hand along the bare skin of her arm gently. It can be, Temari retorted, shifting a bit to give him a better angle for his hand. Doesn't matter though, love you forever, Baka husband. Love you too, Temari-chan, Naruto whispered, leaning over to kiss the top of her head affectionately. Temari relaxed against him completely at the words she'd been longing to hear, drifting off to sleep under the soothing motions of Naruto's hand with a contented smile on her face. Chapter 33. The First Drops Fall. Sakura sat motionless in the middle of the training field, her face showing determination and exhaustion in almost equal measure. Her eyes popped open and fixed on the target dummy sitting nearby, and carefully flexing her chakra, she created a chain she looped around the target. Dispelling the chain, she tiredly pulled herself to her feet and crossed over to the target dummy. A small but victorious grin appeared on her face as she noted the lack of damage to the dummy. After inadvertently sending Naruto to the hospital, she'd been practicing to near chakra exhaustion on controlling the strength of her chains, and this was the 5th time she'd managed to ensnare a target without harming it. Her work was far from done. She could only produce 2 chains at a time, and they drained her limited chakra pool quickly, but this was still measurable progress. Satisfied with her work for the day, she turned and began heading home, stopping to blink in surprise at what she thought was Kakashi being caused by Guy, before shaking her head and continuing on her way. Reaching the grounds and heading towards the house, she heard a shrill scream she recognized as Ino's. Curious about it, changed course from the house to the training ground. She couldn't help but chuckle when she saw Ino frantically trying to escape Yugao and her sword, several gashes already carved into her clothes. Flashing Ino a toothy smile, Sakura sat down on the ground near the edge of the field and pulled out a storage scroll she'd made with Naruto's instruction. Pulling out some of her favorite Anko dumplings, she settled back to enjoy dinner and a show. That was some very impressive dodging their pig, Sakura commented cheerfully after watching Ino desperately try to avoid being hit for almost an hour. You even managed to keep her from cutting off more than half of your clothes. Stuff it, forehead, Ino panted, trying to slow down her breathing and heart rate. It's nowhere as easy as I make it look, you know. I'd almost feel sorry for you if I wasn't massively holding back, Yugao interjected tartly while balancing her katana on the tip of her finger to amuse herself. Naruto-sama might be pushing you to increase your skills, but make no mistake, you still need a great deal of work, Yamanaka-san. I know that, Ino huffed indignantly. Why do you think I stuck around and let you chase me with that thing? She froze at the glint in Yugao's eye and moderated her tone as she continued. I'm grateful for the extra training, Yugao-senpai, but you have to admit, it's a little extreme. Not really, Sakura scoffed, rejoining the conversation. First, she was only aiming for your clothes, not your body. Second, you wouldn't believe the hell Naruto put me through on the days off from team training. She paused to shudder at the memory, getting a smirk from Yugao. Now that was fun to watch, the swordswoman said fondly. One moment, Sakura's alone, the next she's surrounded by a platoon of teleporting shadow clones and told to run. Sakura flushed red and raised her fist threateningly. I think that's enough unless you want her to hear about the time you ate the last piece of one of Temari's cakes. She growled. Right, moving on, Yugao said hurriedly. You're improving rapidly, but sometimes you forget that as a kunoichi, speed, flexibility and deception is crucial. For the most part, we leave the brute power to the boys, with a few notable exceptions. The glance she shot Sakura was not missed by either girl, and Sakura raised her hand, forming the tips of 2 chains with a sickly sweet smile. Allow me to demonstrate, she said darkly, launching the chains at the snickering, retreating figures of her friends. Let's see you use that speed and flexibility now, Shinaro. Her chains wrapped around the 2 and a puff of smoke marked the 2 kunoichi using kawarimi, leaving Sakura disgustedly holding 2 logs. See, Yugao pointed out from the nearby tree branch she'd retreated to as Sakura used her chains to crush the substituted logs with ease. That probably would have hurt if we hadn't used speed and deception to get clear. She eyed the way Sakura's chains were snaking towards her and snagging used a quick shunshin to get a bit more distance from the annoyed medic. Her blade flicked out and deflected a chain headed for her as Sakura released her bunshin and genjutsu, revealing her location within striking distance of and Yugao. See, I can do deception as well, Sakura purred in satisfaction as scrambled to avoid the chain Yugao didn't deflect. I live and train with perhaps the most unpredictable ninja in the entire village after all. Yeah, well, I can do power too, snarled, creating several shadow clones that darted and passed the chain towards Sakura. Using a combination of the hair trap she'd used against Sakura during the Chunin exam and what she'd worked out using Naruto's memory of Jiraiya extending his hair, the clones whipped their ponytails forward, creating long yellow ropes intended to snare Sakura. Judging the distance, Sakura slammed her fist into the ground, creating a dust cloud obscuring Ino's sight. Sensing a presence behind her, Sakura quickly used a sunshin, narrowly dodging Yugao's blade. Lurking in her new hiding spot, she watched the clones fan out searching for her but was forced to move when the real came charging up the tree she was hiding in. Hitting the ground, she flung several kunai behind her to distract and using one of her chains to destroy an clone, used the other to whip herself up into another tree. Hitting the branch, she immediately darted several trees over to avoid having Yugao pop up behind her. I'm impressed, girls, the former ANBU called from where she was lurking. You're both moving and fighting at Chunin levels, but we have company. Wary of a trap, Sakura took a quick look around and spotted Kuratsuchi headed towards the house from the gate. Dropping down from her branch, she made her way over to meet Kuratsuchi, Yugao and staying in the trees above to provide support if needed. Good afternoon, Kuratsuchi, Sakura said politely, her disdain for the other woman only barely showing in her voice. How can the Uzumaki clan help you? Kuratsuchi looked up distractedly, blinking a bit when she realized she was being addressed. I need to speak to Naruto, she said briskly. It's very important. I'm not sure he is available, Sakura replied unhelpfully. Perhaps I can take him a message? No, you tree-hugging bitch, Kuratsuchi snapped before regaining control of herself. No, this is a very important matter that only he can deal with. She gritted her teeth and continued. If you would please see if he is available, I would greatly appreciate it. This is truly important. Tossing a glance over her shoulder at Yugao and getting a shrug, Sakura considered what to do. She really didn't like Kuratsuchi and sending her packing was appealing, but the woman was the granddaughter of the Tsuchikage, and she was stating it was important. In the end, the possible ramifications for the clan if she did deny Kuratsuchi and it was important made her grudgingly decide to pass the request on to Naruto. Very well, if you would remain here, I will go see if my clan head is available, she said professionally. Leaving Ino and Yugao to keep an eye on their guests, Sakura headed up to the house and quietly slipped inside. Making her way to the living room, she witnessed Naruto finally telling Temari he loved her, and she ducked around the corner and slapped a hand over her mouth to stifle a happy giggle. She was truly happy that Temari finally got what she wanted, and the scene was just too cute for words. Shamelessly spying on them for a few moments as Naruto lulled Temari to sleep by rubbing her back, Sakura cleared her throat to get Naruto's attention after the pregnant woman drifted off. Looking up at the noise, Naruto cocked his head questioningly. Reading the hand signs Sakura flashed him, he sighed and eased himself from under Temari, tucking the blanket from the back of the couch over her to keep her warm. What? He asked in annoyance after he left the living room and Sakura didn't speak, just smiled at him. Nothing, she said innocently. That was just a very cute scene, Naruto. It was supposed to be private, he groused in response. So you indicated it was important. What's going on? We have a visitor, the rock bitch. She says it's urgent she speaks to you. I don't suppose she said why? Naruto asked, palming his forehead. No, she didn't, or you would have said so. He finished before Sakura could retort. Fine, I'll go talk to her. I take it Yugao-chan is keeping an eye on her now? Yugao and Ino actually, Sakura said with a smirk. Ino-chan? Why is she here? Taking a closer look at the light damage to Sakura's outfit, Naruto shook his head. Get into another little dust-up with Ino-chan, did you, Sakura-chan? It was training, Sakura said defensively, falling into step behind Naruto as he made his way to the door. I seem to recall you having a training rival, though I would prefer not to talk about that. Understandable. Naruto agreed, exiting the house and spotting Kuratsuchi. Just keep the damage down, I guess. The clones have bitched about all the repair work they've had to do recently. Naruto, Sakura said with a fair amount of irritation. First, the clones are you, and second, most of the damage is also done by you. True, but you and Ino-chan have started making sizable messes of your own, Naruto teased her. Especially you and those punches you've learned from Ba-chan. Remind me again who made a crater big enough it became a second pond again. Sakura snarked back. I seem to recall the explosion attracting the attention of the ANBU alert platoon. Yeah, oops, Naruto said sheepishly, rubbing the back of his head. Not sure who was more pissed about that, Temari-chan or Ba-chan. Oh, Temari for sure, Sakura said with a giggle. You want me to stick around for this? Taking a look to where Kuratsuchi was impatiently waiting, Naruto sucked a breath and through his teeth. No, he said after giving it a moment of thought. You two don't get along very well, and she already looks a bit worked up. Ino-chan and Yugao-chan are already lurking, so if you would go make sure Temari-chan doesn't roll off the couch, I'd appreciate it. Sure, Sakura replied agreeably, turning to head to the house. Have fun with the rock bitch. She called over her shoulder loud enough for Kuratsuchi to hear. Thanks for that, Naruto muttered, palming his face as Sakura damn near skipped back to the house. Glancing up, he sighed and finished making his way over to where Kuratsuchi was barely restraining her temper, her glare shooting daggers at Sakura's back. So, what can I do for you today, Kuro-chan? Naruto asked, forcing a cheerful expression. Taking a deep breath, Kuratsuchi forced herself to calm down, but small signs of her lingering anger showed in her posture and her clenched fists. I have information, she said briskly. Information that Konoha and the Uzumaki clan in particular will find very important. Okay? Naruto asked cautiously. What information? All information has a price, Kuratsuchi said, her eyes locked onto Naruto. Especially information like this. But how am I supposed to know if the information is worth the price if I don't know either? Naruto asked in apparent confusion. Up in the trees, Ino palmed her face and Yugao pulled out a small notebook listing things she needed to train Naruto on. Flipping past the first 10 pages, she found an open spot and marked in negotiations. Very well, Kuratsuchi said stiffly. I have information regarding a clear threat to the Uzumaki clan, especially the expansion of the clan. I'm not stupid, Naruto replied, his cheerful facade slipping away to be replaced with the steel lurking underneath. If you do have that sort of information, it means that you are involved. Probably something planned since before you arrived in Konoha. That being said, is there something you would like to tell me? Taken aback by the sweet smile on his face clashing horribly with the ice in his eyes, Kuratsuchi raised her hands defensively. It's not like that, she stammered. Well, maybe a little, she conceded as his eyes bored into her. I don't want any part of it anymore, but I'm a kunoichi. The only way out from me is if I place myself under a different authority. So defect to Konoha, Naruto replied reasonably. Sure, so Hunter Nin would be after me every time I poked my nose out of the village, she scoffed. I was thinking something more along the lines of what happened to Temari. Marrying into a clan automatically transfers village citizenship, without the taint of betrayal. I'm a strong kunoichi with a powerful bloodline and I'm the granddaughter of the Tsuchikage. Wouldn't that be beneficial to a man looking to rebuild his clans? She asked hopefully. No, Naruto replied flatly. What? Why? Kuratsuchi asked in shock. I'm strong, I'm smart, I'm pretty, and I have connections you would find useful. Why would you deny me? Because I can't trust you, Naruto replied with brutal honesty. You came to offer a warning, but only if I accepted your price, one my wife would find unacceptable, and you know that. That leaves me wondering exactly why you're here, Kuratsuchi-san. I can't help but feel that you are trying to play me somehow, and I've learned to listen to those sorts of feelings, but I'm not trying to play you, Kuratsuchi replied desperately. She dropped to her knees and pleaded with him. I want out. I want out of this sham engagement with the Uchiha. I want out of the manipulations of my grandfather. I want to be free to live my life, and I want you. I'm sorry, what? Naruto asked in disbelief. You're the only one nice to me here, Kuratsuchi said dully. You, the son of the Yondaime Hokage, are the only person in Konoha that treats me as something other than the granddaughter of the Tsuchikage. The only one in my entire life to do that. You're handsome, powerful, kind, and my only possible escape from the hell that my life has become. I'm sorry, Kuratsuchi-chan, Naruto said gently. You're looking in the wrong place for an escape. If you really want a way out, you'll have to find it on your own. So that's your answer? Kuratsuchi asked, getting to her feet, refusing to meet Naruto's gaze. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised, but I thought you'd be smarter than this. She turned her head towards him with deadened eyes. You will regret this, Namikaze-san. Good night. Watching her stalk off, Naruto shook his head and sighed. There was no way he could accept her request, but he had the sinking sensation he just made a mistake in the way he'd handled her. That last threat wasn't ominous at all. With a last sigh of frustration, he turned to trudge back to the house with his arms clasped behind his head. Whatever happened, he'd just have to deal with it like he always did, though hopefully with a bit less collateral damage. Up in the trees, Yugao clenched her teeth as she followed the figure of Kuratsuchi out of the compound with cold eyes. Ignoring the gossipy chatter from Ino, she unconsciously ran her fingers over the hilt of her sword. She couldn't fault Naruto's rejection of the offer, but her instincts told her that there would be blood spilled over this. Hopping down from the tree, she hurried to catch up to her young liege. Falling in place slightly behind him and to the side, she spoke her mind. There will be trouble from this, Naruto-sama, she said quietly. When isn't there? Naruto muttered, shooting a glance back. I'm not sure if that was a real offer, but even if it was, it wasn't one I could accept. He stopped suddenly and clenched his fists in irritation. When I was younger, I believed that I could be the greatest ninja ever simply by kicking ass. There are times I truly wish that's how it worked, you know. Life certainly would be simpler like that, Yugao commented dryly, the tone hiding her concern at how irritated Naruto seemed. Hey, Kami, how I wish sometimes, Naruto repeated with a sigh before straightening his posture and blanking the weariness from his face, grim determination setting in. Sadly, we have to do the best that we can in the world as it is, Naruto stated, fixing his eyes on Yugao. So, regardless of the validity of her offer, do you believe the rest? About a threat against the Temari-sama and the children? Yugao asked in confirmation. Yes, Naruto said shortly. Undoubtedly, Yugao said grimly. Just your heritage would draw attention. Add in Temari-sama's and the temptation is there for any shinobi village, let alone IWA and its hatred of both Konoha and Suna. I'd be far more surprised if there weren't any plots against us. Yeah, that's what I thought, Naruto said tiredly. She's not going to like it, but I want you with Temari-chan at all times, Yugao. If you feel the need, you have permission to hire Konoha shinobi that you trust to assist you. Understood, Yugao said softly. Would you prefer the extra security to be overt or covert? Covert, of course, Naruto said with a lopsided grin after giving it a moment of thought. She's already going to be pissed, no need to set her off more than needed. You assume that she won't notice, Yugao said, rolling her eyes. Hey, one can always hope, Naruto said defensively, biting back a chuckle. Besides, there is a reason I'm delegating to you other than your abilities as X and BU. If she does notice, you can try to explain it to her. How wonderful, Yugao sighed, rolling her eyes and looking less than thrilled at the prospect. Oh, and Yugao, Naruto said, all mirth gone from his face and tone. If Kuratsuchi crosses the line into becoming an actual threat, you will eliminate her and to hell with any consequences to Clan Uzumaki. Yes, Naruto-sama, Yugao replied, bracing into an unconscious salute at the command in Naruto's voice. A soft gasp behind them caused both to snap their heads around to see Ino standing there staring at them with her hand covering her mouth. Damn it, Ino-chan! Naruto snarled in annoyance. Do you have to stick your nose into everything you shouldn't? I just wanted to know what was going on, Ino said defensively, moving closer to the pair. Which was my point, Naruto said, massaging his temples. You shouldn't have listened in, and we should have paid more attention, and you should have as well. What? Ino asked in confusion before stiffening in alarm at a series of angry growls behind her. Slowly and carefully turning her head to look over her shoulder, she gulped when she saw the small squad of foxes closing in on her. Naruto, what are you doing? Ino asked, her voice trembling a bit despite her attempts to keep it even. Ino-chan, I like you and you're good friends with Temari, but you're interfering with clan business, Naruto said sternly. I didn't mean to, Ino pleaded, frightened by the direct look Naruto was giving her. Relax, Ino-chan, Naruto said, motioning the foxes to leave. I'm aware of that, but the fact remains that you've heard things better left alone. So what I want from you is your absolute vow that you will not speak of this to anyone ever. If you can't do that, then I will have no choice but to ban you from Uzumaki grounds and inform your father that the relationship between our clans will remain neutral until such time as reparations are made for spying. Ino shot a glance at Yugao for support but got nothing but a stony glare. Sighing in defeat, Ino bowed her head to hide the slight trickle of tears at being treated so coldly by both the man she loved and a woman she considered to be a friend. I, Yamanaka Ino, do swear that I will never speak of the events of tonight with anyone not present. She raised her head defiantly. There, does that satisfy you? She spat. Naruto crossed to her and met her glare evenly as he searched her eyes for signs of deceit. Finding nothing but hurt and anger, Naruto cupped her chin in his hand gently. Yes, and I'm sorry that this had to happen, Ino, but I will not, cannot, take chances with the safety of my family. But I'm not a threat, Ino said softly, her spark of defiance gone. We're supposed to be friends. I am your friend, Naruto said sadly. But what did I say about how the world is? That we do the best we can with how it is. Ino replied slowly, considering the words carefully. Exactly, and also showing how long you were listening in. Naruto said dryly. I know that you would never willfully betray us, but you love to gossip, Ino, and sometimes your mouth moves before your brain does. I needed to make sure that you understood the seriousness of this, and I am sorry. I think I understand, Ino said, shaking her head slightly in bewilderment at both the explanation and the apology. If it's okay, I think I need to go home now. I'm really tired. Okay, Ino-chan, Naruto said, forcing a smile. We'll see you later, okay? Yeah, later, Ino mumbled, turning and stumbling off. Naruto and Yugao watched her go in silence, and after she was out of sight, Naruto sighed heavily. Well, that sucked, he said bluntly. Yeah, poor kid, Yugao said absently. What's that supposed to mean? Naruto said crossly with a glare. No, I meant her, not you, Naruto-sama, Yugao said with a ghost of a smile. Again, what's that supposed to mean? Naruto responded in annoyance. Nothing, Naruto-sama, Yugao replied with a sneaky grin. Just girl stuff, you wouldn't be interested. Fine, be that way, Naruto said, giving it up as a lost cause. Still, I feel kinda bad about scaring her like that. She needed it, Yugao replied. Sort of a curse for Yamanaka clan members. They tend to be really nosy until someone points out that it's a good way to get killed. Some never do learn that lesson. If you say so, Naruto said with a shrug. I think I've pretty much had it with tonight. What about you? I have some arrangements to make, Naruto-sama, Yugao said with an evil smirk. Need to see if Anko is available for bodyguard duty. Her and Temari seem to get along well. I officially hate you right now, Naruto muttered. Of course you do, Naruto-sama. Yugao laughed cheerfully. Good night. Yeah, good night, Yugao, Naruto muttered before turning and finishing his trip towards the house as he continued to mutter under his breath about Anko. Once the two were gone, Sakura stepped out from behind the hedge, uncertain about what to do. While she agreed that Naruto couldn't take chances with the family's safety, she was worried about how Ino was going to handle the encounter. The problem was that she couldn't talk to Ino about it without admitting that she'd been listening in as well. In her case, it wasn't such a big deal because she was in fact part of Clan Uzumaki, but she doubted that Naruto would be all that amused by it either. Ino needed a friend now though, and if that meant admitting that she'd been there, well, she'd cross that bridge when she got to it. After Sakura hurried off towards the Yamanaka compound, A slight popping sound came from where she'd been as a Kage Bunshin of Naruto transformed from a pebble and shook its head. He truly doubted the boss was going to be amused with this, but it wasn't going to be his problem, and he hoped the boss also enjoyed the experience of being a rock for several days. Grimly chuckling at passing that memory along, the clone dispelled himself. Chapter 34, Raging Wind. Sakura groaned and wiped a drop of sweat out of her eyes, taking a brief moment away from the dirty, tedious work her soon-to-be dead clan leader had assigned as punishment. She should have known Naruto would have staked out the compound with clones, but she still would have gone to comfort Ino, she just would have been more cautious about it. But the orange-loving bastard had caught her, and rather than give her a decent punishment, he'd assigned her this. There was a certain hell involved in digging a 6-foot hole with a spoon, and then refilling the hole with the same damn spoon. There was no point, it was dirty and sweaty, and she could hear Naruto and Temari chatting as they relaxed in the damn pool. She strongly doubted that it was sheer coincidence that Naruto was loudly referring to how refreshing the water was in much louder tones than any other part of the conversation. Perhaps her only consolation was that she wasn't alone. A rather tired, dirty and fuming Ino was nearby digging her own hole. It was her way of making amends, and apologizing for her actions, but Sakura had a suspicion Ino regretted that decision at the moment. "So, we're going to murder him for this, yeah?" Ino asked as she stabbed her spoon into the ground furiously. "Tempting, but no," Sakura replied regretfully. "I can't say that I enjoy this, and oh yes, he will pay, but it could be a lot worse." Ino replied with a quick bob of her head. "I talked to my dad about what Naruto said, and he sort of freaked out. Internal clan affairs are serious business, but it was the threat to end relations with the clan that really got him. I think my father and the rest of the trio have some sort of plan going involving Naruto. I just don't know what it is. I really wouldn't try finding out," Sakura advised dryly. "Given that the Ino Shikacho trio are actively attempting to ally with Clan Uzumaki, I doubt that they mean us any harm. In fact, I would say it's extremely interesting that your father allows you to spend so much time here, especially given that Naruto can marry again. I don't think he's planning that." Ino huffed defensively with a blush. "I won't deny that I'm interested, but I don't think he is, and he's pretty devoted to Temari, you know. That's the life of a ninja," Enko said from where she was lounging in a nearby tree overseeing the girls' work. She paused a bit to take another bite of her dango, before continuing in a serious tone. "Naruto was handed a bad hand from birth, and was forced into this, but he chose not to be resentful, and it seems that he has found joy in his life." Enko absently rubbed her neck, her face momentarily twisting into a grimace. "It could have easily turned out differently, of course. I assume that I don't have to remind you of Gaara. That could have been Naruto, you know." The girls shuddered at the thought, and Ino spoke up in a quiet, reflective tone. "He really should hate us, shouldn't he? I suppose especially the two of us." She gestured at Sakura and herself. "I never hated you." Naruto inserted himself into the conversation, entering the garden trailed by a slow-moving Temari. "I never could understand the obsession that you had with the team, and I had that infatuation with Sakura, but I never hated you for what you did." He paused and scratched the back of his neck in thought. "I can't say that I didn't get really angry with some of the things that you did, but my life has taught me that you have to find happiness in even the small things. Most everyone in the village feared and hated me because of the fox, or because their parents told them that I was bad. The two of you, especially you Sakura, disliked me because I annoyed you. It was personal because of my actions, not the sort of cold feeling from most others. For me, that was a victory of sorts." "Oh," Ino said quietly. "That makes sense, in a horrible sort of way. I'm truly very sorry for how I treated you in the past, Naruto. Truly sorry." Don't worry about it, Ino-chan," Naruto said with a sunny smile. "It's a new, better future, right?" "Yes, it is," Temari said gravely. "I can't say that I wouldn't have acted differently, but it shames me to know that I failed to see the scared, lonely boy inside that terrifying exterior my brother had." Her gaze turned to the statues made by Gaara as a wedding present, and her features softened into a smile and her hand absently rubbed her stomach. "It's nice to know that the future looks bright for once." "Speaking of," Naruto said with a wicked grin. "Oh Enko-chan, why aren't these two working? I paid a great deal of dango for your overseer services, and yet I'm somewhat disappointed. Perhaps I should inquire as to a refund?" "No!" Enko shouted, clutching the bag of dango to her chest defensively. Alright girls, work now. Save my precious dango. That's not an incentive. Sakura complained, leaning back into her task with less than enthusiasm. Maybe if you shared. Never. Naruto laughed merrily as he escorted Temari towards the house to the sounds of Anko and the girls bickering in the background. Something on your mind, Temari-chan? Naruto asked, seeing some sort of mixed emotions on his wife's face as they walked arm in arm. It's nothing really, Temari said pensively. I was just thinking over what they said, and I'm extremely grateful that you didn't turn out like my brother did. None of this would be happening, and I think the world would be a much darker place. Ma, you're overthinking things, Temari-chan. Naruto chided cheerfully. We can't change the past, so focus on the present. We have a happy home, a couple of slave girls. I heard that, Naruto baka. Sakura yelled back, making Naruto's grin widen. Good friends and peace. Naruto finished. Be happy, Temari-chan. I am happy, baka husband. Temari said with a smile, but one of us has to actually think about things, you know. Hey, I think about things. Naruto interjected. I do. Battle and political maneuverings wasn't exactly what I meant, dear. Temari said, smacking Naruto's shoulder lightly. I meant about the past and the future and what it means. Oh, well, I hereby delegate that to you, Temari-chan. Naruto said airily. Right. Temari said, rolling her eyes. Just now decided that, huh? I have this sudden feeling I should be glad you don't have your fan. Naruto said warily. Temari gave her husband an evil grin as she let go of his arm and summoned her fan from the seal on the sleeve of her kimono. You were saying, dear? Ah shit. Naruto said dejectedly. I probably shouldn't have taught you how to make those seals, I think. Do I get a head start? Temari laughed and resealed her fan, tucking her arm back into his, enjoying the flustered and bewildered look on Naruto's face. Not this time, dear, she said smugly. Just remember, I always have my fan now. Right, point taken, Naruto said quickly. You're a mean one, Mrs. Uzumaki. Of course, Temari replied. I'm the daughter of a Kage, married to the son of a Kage, who will one day be a Kage himself. I have a reputation to uphold, you know. Naruto palmed his face with his free hand, accompanied by the music of Temari's laughter. You're something else, Temari-chan. Believe me, the feeling is mutual, Naruto, but you are mine, and I am yours forever. Always, Temari-chan, always. Naruto sat at his desk and scowled at the diagrams mocking him from their place in front of him. No matter what he tried, he could not seem to get his father's jutsu to work perfectly for him. From everything he knew and heard, his father could instantly flash between any marker, he was always stuck with at least a 3-second delay between when he located a marker and when he arrived. The issue wasn't travel time during the jutsu, which was instant, just like his father. The problem was that he needed time to focus on the marker, and it required a great deal of chakra. He had no idea how strong his father had been, but it seemed unlikely that he'd expended nearly the amount of chakra traveling as Naruto did. A handful of flashes was draining, so there simply had to be something wrong, and he couldn't find it. With a sigh, Naruto slumped in his chair and let his head drop taut at desk with an audible thump. It was driving him crazy, not being able to find a solution. Unless he found a way to fix the problem, he was stuck redesigning the jutsu by hand, which would take forever. Well, not quite forever, but it certainly would take a great deal of time. The formula for the jutsu was extremely complex, and had to be balanced just right, or things would be messy. Kaboom! Hey, where's my arm? Sort of messy. And he didn't really want to be scolded by Temari for blowing off his arm. When she was pissed, the woman had a tongue like a razor. Idly looking around the study, hoping for some sort of inspiration, his gaze glanced across a small ceramic toad sitting randomly on a shelf. With a start, Naruto pushed himself to his feet, several ideas running through his head. He was going to need sake, a lot of sake. Hey boss! Naruto slurred from where he was sitting cross-legged on Gamabunta's head, before taking another drink from the jar of sake in his hand. What? Bunta asked, clearly enjoying the barrel of sake in front of him. So you knew my father, right? Better than anyone? Better than anyone but that fool Jiraiya, yes. Bunta replied, puffing on his pipe in agitation. I don't get that. Naruto rambled drunkenly. Ero-sennin has been a toad summoner for a long time, but you always seem so angry with him. Why? A summoner must be strong, loyal, brave, and true to their word, Bunta said bitterly. Jiraiya is your godfather, Naruto, and he did not fulfill his duties. He broke his promise, and I find myself unable to forgive that. Is that right? Naruto asked wonderingly. I don't think Erosenin meant to, and he did stop and check up on me from what I know. Naruto pulled out his old frog wallet Gamachan and held it out. This had to have been from him, and he did start training me before the finals of the Chunin exams. Intentions do not matter, Bunta said firmly. In this world, we are judged on what we do, and how we do it, not on what was intended. Naruto. It pleased me that he began fulfilling his responsibilities, but where is he now? I do not sense him nearby, and you are still in need of training Naruto. I have no idea where he is, Naruto said dejectedly. He pretty much disappeared, and I know it's worrying Bachan. But training is actually why I wanted to talk to you. Bunta snorted and chuckled. I doubt there is much I can train you in. You're already receiving instruction from the sages, and you don't have my size for combat. Not that. Naruto waved the comment away, a more focused look on his face. I can't get the Hiraishin to work right, he admitted. There is always a delay between when I locate a marker and when I can travel to it, plus it drains a great deal of chakra. Oh, that, Bunta said thoughtfully. I remember that he had a hard time adapting it to himself. Something about keying it to a specific person, but I don't know the details. Wait, Naruto said, something in that sentence drawing his full attention. You said adapting, he didn't create it? No, he learned of the jutsu from the Forbidden Scroll. The scroll I stole? Naruto asked in wonder before cursing. Damn it, I really should have copied some of those down rather than just learning Kage Bunshin. That would have been inadvisable. Tsunade said sternly, leaping up onto Gamabunta's head to glare at Naruto. Those jutsu are forbidden for a reason. Ba-chan! Naruto called out cheerfully, ignoring the glare he was getting. What brings you out tonight? Are you drunk? Tsunade asked in disbelief before palming her face with a muttered curse about Toad summoners. Never mind. Naruto, did you know it's considered polite to inform the Kage before summoning a Class S summon near the village? While the villagers are not afraid of the Toad summons, Gamabunta appearing is cause for concern because he is a battle summon. Naruto blinked at the barrage. But I'm not near the village, Bachan. He pointed out meekly. Naruto. Tsunade said wetly, drawing in a calming breath. Can you see the Hokage monument from here? Naruto glanced over towards the village, and could barely make out the faces on the mountain. Sure, Bachan, just barely. Then you, read too close to the village, Baka. Tsunade roared. Oh, Naruto said mildly to the laughter from Gamabunta. Oops, my bad. Say, Bachan, you know anything about the Hiraishin being on the Forbidden Scroll? Tsunade nearly screamed in frustration, hands pulling at her hair before she marched over and stole Naruto's sake jar and downed the remaining contents in one gulp. Better, she said before fixing her gaze on Naruto firmly. Why do you need to know, Naruto? You already use Hiraishin. Imperfectly, Naruto said bitterly. I can use my father's jutsu, but from what Gamabunta just said, it needs to be keyed to a person. If that's true, then the only reason I can use my father's jutsu is that I'm his son, and I have enough chakra to force the jutsu to work, but it's tiring and it takes time. Neither of which is good for a combat jutsu. Tsunade said thoughtfully. Assuming it is in the scroll, would you be able to adapt it to yourself? Maybe? Naruto replied unsure. I'm getting pretty good with seals, and I think if I compare the difference between the original and my father's I can see what has changed and where and modify it, but I can't guarantee that. Alright, Naruto. Tsunade said after several moments of silence, I will allow you to copy that one jutsu for your own personal use, but I expect to be there when you test it. Is that clear? Sure, Bachan, but why? Something tells me that you're going to need a medic, Tsunade said with a sigh. I suppose I should escalate the Medine training for your household as well. Ah crap, Naruto said, his eyes popping open at the thought. You won't tell them why, right? We'll see, Tsunade said with a smirk. We'll see. Naruto watched Tsunade leave in silence before moaning and holding his head with his hands. I'm so freaking dead. Women, Bunta said with a chuckle, releasing a plume of smoke from his pipe. You aren't kidding, Naruto said with a sigh, unsealing another jar of sake and taking a deep pull. No sense letting this go to waste, because I'm already going to pay for it. Well said, Gaki, well said. From the blissful darkness, spears of frozen light ripped through Naruto's eyes directly into his brain, causing pain, a great deal of pain. I'm up. he mumbled, dragging himself over the side of the bed to land with a loud thump. So I see. Temari said crossly, hands still on the drape she just opened. Mind telling me where you were last night, and why you reek of sake? Toads, Hiroshin, stupid Bachan. Naruto mumbled half-coherently from his place on the floor. He was trying to get up, he really was, but the floor kept moving on him, and he felt it was safer to stay where he was. Temari deliberately stomped her way over to Naruto, causing him to flinch every time her foot hit the ground. Try that again, please. I summoned Gamabunta. Naruto mumbled. You know what the toads are like. Then Bachan showed up and things got messy. Temari carefully sat on the edge of the bed, and carefully looked her husband over. His clothes were a torn, bloody mess, there were splinters everywhere, he had several cuts just beginning to heal, and several very impressive bruises. Hokage-sama did this to you? She asked with some disbelief. She'd seen Tsunade punch Naruto through things, but the only time she'd seen him in a state anywhere near this was after the fight with her brother. No, after she left, Boss and I decided to spar, Naruto said with a groan. I have regrets. Temari blinked at that. You decided to spar, with a toad the size of a small mountain? That's kind of crazy even for you. I assumed the sake had something to do with that poor decision. It's possible, Naruto admitted, pushing himself up from the floor with a hiss of pain. In my defense, it was a hell of a fight, and you should see Gamabunta. On Toad Mountain, a heavily bandaged Gamabunta sat at the well showing a replay of his fight with Naruto to the other toads. See, look at this, he said as Naruto charged in and was negligently flipped away and threw a few trees to the laughter of the crowd. Gaki gets right back up and does the same thing, but this time. Bunta slowed the replay down so everyone could see Naruto calmly dodge the strike with seeming ease, then do a flying uppercut powered with a large blue flash of chakra that sent Bunta flying this time. Gamabunta stopped the replay at this point and addressed the crowd solemnly. The Gaki seems a bit strange, even for a human, but push him, and he does things you wouldn't think possible. I want to begin a rotation. All combat toads will train or spar with Naruto as time allows. This will allow us to train him, but will also keep our own skills sharp. Naruto exploited several weaknesses in my guard, as seen here when he falcon punched me straight in the jaw. I wasn't expecting it, and I sure as hell didn't see it coming, but I'll be watching for it now. I see. Pot Toad said thoughtfully, stroking his goatee. If Naruto-chan has advanced this much in his control and his chakra, it may be time to accelerate his training. Not so fast. Ma Toad said quickly. I agree that he is improved, but I do not wish for another statue here on the mountain. Not to worry, Ma, Pa said carefully. I said accelerate, not toss him off a cliff. He was a little confused at why the words caused Gamabunta to scowl at him. So let me see if I've got this right, Temari said with a sigh, massaging the bridge of her nose. You summoned Gamabunta to discuss the Hiroshin, got drunk, got bitched out by Tsunade, forced Sakura and myself into further intensive medine training, then decided that you were already screwed so you might as well get even more drunk, and then, finally, you decided to spar with a toad the size of a mountain. Am I missing anything here? No, not really, Naruto said sheepishly, notably less effective with his paled skin and battle debris still present. You know, I can deal with all of that, Temari said finally. It's somewhat to be expected really, but you know what I'm actually really pissed about. No, not really? Naruto semi-asked in confusion. Certainly it had to be one of those things. Naruto, look at yourself. She waited until he'd done so, then continued. Now look at the bed. A slow comprehension settled on his face, and his expression sank as he realized how badly he'd dirted up the bed. While he hadn't made it under the covers before he'd passed out, the top of the comforter was covered in grass, mud, and blood, several spots looking to be very permanent stains. I'm going to guess that you want me to clean that up now, he asked, getting a firm nod in reply. Yes, dear, he said, his shoulders slumping. Temari cupped his chin in her hand and tilted his face up towards hers. Finding a spot not covered in various debris, she planted a quick peck before getting up and heading for the door. I'm be at that medical training you inflicted on me if you need me, she said with a light heat to her tone. But I do know what you're going to be doing today. This really sucks. Naruto grumbled as he stared at the small hole he managed to dig with his spoon. Tell us something we don't know. Sakura and Ino chorused at him from their own holes. You were the one that came up with this, seems fitting you should suffer with us. Sakura finished, getting a firm nod of agreement from Ino. Less talking, more digging, Enko called from her usual perch. You are such a traitor, Naruto growled at her with narrowed eyes. I bought that dango. Very tasty it was, Enko agreed readily. But I am honor-bound to aid my fellow women against all enemies, domestic or home wrecker. Naruto couldn't help it, he began laughing, and once he started, he couldn't stop. Barely able to breathe, the indignant sputters from Ino only served to cause him further laughter. Finally able to breathe, he brushed a tear from his eye and began to dig far more cheerfully. Thanks, Enko-chan, he told the perplexed woman. I really needed a good laugh, but I suppose now would be the best time to tell all three of you that Bachan intends to put you through intensive training starting tomorrow, right? Temari is doing her first session today. Tomorrow, you guys go too. The hell I am, Enko said, recoiling away in horror. I'm no Medin, and I already trained under a Sannin, even if he was a murderous, treacherous bastard. Why the hell would I go? Naruto stood up and calmly brushed the dirt from his hands as he faced Enko directly. Because the order extends to all members of the Uzumaki household, and for your sins, that includes you now. What? Enko asked uneasily, hand running against her neck unconsciously. Well, it does if you want it to, Naruto said with a frown, unsure about her reaction. Temari-chan suggested it to me, but I fully agree, and it's not like you don't spend enough time here anyway. I'm not good, Enko said hoarsely, voice full of unspoken pain. I'm loud, I'm rude, I was apprenticed to a traitor. I seek attention in any way possible because it hurts less than being completely ignored or shunned. Naruto asked knowingly. He pointed a finger at his chest. I'm pretty sure I understand you more than you think I do. Enko barked out a laugh, though it sounded more like a strangled sob than anything else. Yeah, I can see that, Gaki, but what exactly are you proposing here anyway? Well, ideally we would adopt you into the clan like we did with Sakura-chan, but I'm not so sure that's a good idea, Naruto replied. Right, Enko said self-loathingly. Probably not a good idea to officially make me a clan member. I'm not worried about that, Naruto said hurriedly, managing to connect the dots as to why. He tapped his chest again. So far the clan consists of a fairly normal kunoichi, a crazy clan leader, and a very strange kunoichi. He warily eyed Sakura and wondered if that eye twitch thing was something all kunoichi did, or if it was specific to Menin. Oh, and let's not forget about the ANBU kunoichi retainer, Toad summons, and last but not least, a bunch of foxes that can melt your face off. Enko's laugh was a great deal more genuine as she slumped back against the trunk of her tree. I seriously doubt adding another crazy ANBU member, and especially the snake summons would be politically wise. There are those that would see this as a power grab. Fuck him, Naruto said disparagingly. We are not offering you a place in our family because you're strong, or because of the summons. We are offering you a place because we like you, and no one should be alone, he finished softly. He moved closer to where Enko was and lowered his voice so Ino and Sakura couldn't hear him. The reason I can't do the adoption ceremony like we did with Sakura is that I have no idea how it would react with your curse seal. How do you know about that? Enko nearly screeched before lowering her voice to a whisper as well. That's very classified. How do you know about it? Seal master in training here, Naruto replied, puffing out his chest proudly. Ero-sennin left notes about it in my study. I know he wasn't able to make much headway with it, but I think he thought that I might be able to. Did you? Enko asked hopefully. No, sorry, Naruto replied with a sigh. I'm not anywhere as skilled as he is, and it's like there are missing pieces to it as well. I'll keep working on it though, I promise. That's alright, Enko said somewhat resigned. Was probably too much to hope for, I guess. I mean it, Naruto said determinedly. I'll figure I out, and I never go back on my promises. It's my nindo after all. I believe you, Enko said with a rare genuine smile. For those of us that had nothing else, we still had our word, didn't we, Gaki? Damn straight, Naruto said proudly. So, is that a yes? 'Cause I really do need an answer. You sure don't give a woman much time to make up her mind, Enko said with a mischievous grin. Okay, I totally agree to marry you, she said in a loudly. Say what? Naruto blinked before going extremely pale at the sudden explosion of rage he felt behind him. Oh, you are such a bitch! Just remember you wanted me, Enko said in a sing-song manner before cackling madly and leaping away. Well shit, Naruto said, as a combined punch from Sakura and Ino slammed into his head. This is just not my day. Watching from a perch in the trees nearby, Temari sighed and shook her head, reaching up and running a palm across her face wearily. It's certainly never boring around here, Yugao commented to her idly as the two women watched the irate girls pound on what they thought was Naruto, but was actually Naruto creating shadow clones from where he'd substituted himself before the first strike. I suppose it is entertainment of a sort, Temari conceded. I'm not sure if I'm more annoyed with those two for beating on what they think is my husband, or at Naruto for playing along with it. Frankly, I'm surprised you're not irritated at Enko, Yugao commented lightly. No, I saw that one coming, Temari said with a chuckle. I'm a little surprised Naruto didn't, but we both know that he tends not to think of other things when he speaks from the heart. It's because he is a good man, Yugao said sadly, reflecting on the loss of her good man before the invasion. I know, Temari replied with a slight grin, unaware of the other woman's thoughts. It's the reason I came to love him, though he still needs to be housebroken a little. I'm not sure that's really possible for any man, Yugao joked. There are always rough edges you just can't get rid of. Not that I'd really want to, Temari said with a great deal of warmth in her tone. I just want him to think about what he's going to do, before he does it more. I think you might be underestimating him, Temari-san, Yugao said politely. Sometimes it's hard not to, Temari said with a sigh as Naruto's laughter gave away his position, and he found himself dragged out of the tree by Sakura's chakra chains. Sometimes you just need a little faith, Yugao said with a smirk as the Naruto in the chains burst into smoke, showing itself to be a clone. True enough, Temari coincided. Wonder where he actually went? Try looking up, Naruto said in an amused tone, startling both women who looked up to see Naruto standing upside down on the branch above their heads. How long have you been there? Temari asked suspiciously. Just got here, Naruto said with a shrug, dropping down to join them. Sakura about nailed me with those damn chakra chains, and I decided I'd come join you ladies. You knew we were here all along? Yugao asked skeptically. Of course, Naruto replied. I've got this whole area covered in henge clones. No one notices the pebble or stick that puffs away, and I know what's going on. I wish I had the chakra to do that, Yugao said wistfully. I can only handle a few clones for a very short amount of time. I'm a bit surprised, Naruto said, getting a nod of agreement from Temari. You're part Uzumaki, even if only a little. Shouldn't you have more chakra? I don't know. Yugao blinked. I have more chakra than most of the kunoichi in the village, but not by all that much. Naruto scratched his head in confusion. Yugao-chan, if I'm this close to someone, I can get a pretty good read on how strong someone is. I didn't know that, Temari said, a bit miffed. Why didn't you tell me that? I didn't know it was anything special, Naruto said with a shrug. Not till I learned about sensors, and after that, it pretty much slipped my mind. It's why Gaara scared the crap out of me when we first met. Other than Gigi, I hadn't ever felt someone that strong. Didn't you run into Orochimaru in the Chunin exams? Yugao asked. Yeah, but I never actually got all that close. We were in the middle of battle, and from what I know, he was actively hiding his strength so he wouldn't be detected. Makes sense, Temari commented. So, how strong is Yugao? Pretty strong, Naruto said, trying to find a good comparison. If I use you as a baseline, she's about half again as strong, and you're stronger than most I've met, Temari-chan. She's a jonin. Temari pouted, forcing Naruto to resist the urge to point out how cute it made her. I haven't reached my full potential yet. You know, if you really want more chakra, we could always make you an Uzumaki. Naruto joked, getting a giggle from Yugao and a glare from Temari. I am an Uzumaki. Temari huffed playfully, unable to resist a return strike. I'm already married to you, so being blood-related would be, I don't know, icky. True enough, Naruto agreed cheerfully. But anyway, you should be able to make at least a few clones that last, he said to Yugao, getting the conversation back on track. Can you focus your chakra for me? I might be able to determine something. Sure, I guess, Yugao said, making a sign and forcing her chakra out, causing a visible blue aura to surround her. Impressive, Temari said, somewhat in shock at the strength Yugao had. She'd seen stronger. Naruto and Gaara were vastly stronger. She'd seen her father's chakra flare a few times. And then there were the times Tsunade had punched Naruto through something. But Yugao was damn impressive for a fairly normal kunoichi. Are you really putting everything into it? Naruto asked skeptically. Of course I am. Yugao snarled at him, trying to hold her concentration. Trying to focus this much chakra was extremely hard. It kept trying to slip away from her. I think I know what the problem is, Naruto said finally, motioning a visibly tired Yugao to stop. What is it? She said once she'd gotten her breathing under control. I don't think you actually learned how to control your chakra, Naruto said with some irritation. I have the same problem. The more chakra I use, the harder it is to control, and if I use too much, most jutsu just blow up in my face. I get around a lot of that by just making the jutsu larger, so it won't, but I have lots of clones practicing chakra control every day, and still have that same problem. You also have a lot more chakra than I do, Naruto-sama, Yugao pointed out respectfully. Yes, but it's still the same problem. My guess is that your Jonin-sensei had you stop doing chakra control when you mastered tree and water walking, and for a lot of shinobi or kunoichi that would be fine, but not for us. Fantastic, Yugao growled. Chakra control exercises, what fun. Very, Naruto agreed dryly. But you've got the juice to use a clone or two, and have less chakra so you won't be bored stupid when they disperse, and you have the equivalent of a week's worth of chakra exercises download into your head. It really, really sucks. I wonder if that would be useful for me as well, Temari said thoughtfully. I know I can't use shadow clones, at least for now, but more control would be good, and I rarely have much of anything to do right now. I've seen you practicing with those little fans, Naruto pointed out. Bouncing that little ball of wind between them is both good elemental and chakra control training, so you probably won't have to do all the boring ones we have to. He paused and thought about it. Come to think of it, I could probably have a few clones work on that as well, given that my first element is wind. We could make it better. Temari smirked. Seal a table so we don't shred it, and we can hit the wind ball back and forth with Tenzin. I like it, Naruto said excitedly. We can make it into a game, make the ball have to bounce one on the table and pass the other to score a point. Make it first to 15 to win. As the voice of sanity here, I would like to point out that missing the ball as you call it would possibly kill you, Yugao said deadpan, and Naruto and Temari began thrashing out the rules to their new game. Oh, who am I kidding? She said with a sigh. You're going to do it anyway, aren't you? Over time, despite several attempts to ban it, Razor Pong as it came to be known, because a very popular pastime for ninja across the elemental lands. As may be expected, most champions came from Suna. The larger amount of wind users there allowed far more practice, but only the Kazekage was foolish enough to challenge the Hokage to a match. Given the nature of the two, their relationship as brother-in-laws, and their sheer power, most of their so-called matches had to be held away from the villages. A retired Tsunade was not pleased the day a sand-encased, razor-sharp wind ball sliced straight between the eyes of her face on the Hokage monument. Urban legend states that the former Hokage chased the two responsible around the village for several hours, to the extreme annoyance of the Hokage's wife, who finally put an end to it by blasting all three Kages completely out of the village with her fan. It's really time, Naruto asked excitedly, nearly hopping in place as he stood next to Temari's hospital bed. For the last time, yes, Temari growled, hand clamping down on Naruto's arm hard enough to make him wince as another contraction hit. Now, for the love of all that is holy, would you please settle down? Sorry, Temari-chan. Chastened Naruto apologized. I'm just really excited, and nervous, and worried, and scared, and… He came to an abrupt halt as Temari awkwardly yanked him face to face. I know that, she said quietly. And I feel the same way, but you're driving me crazy. She saw some hurt in his eyes, the residue of the life he'd led, and pulled him closer to softly kiss him. I love you, she reassured him after breaking the kiss off. Wholeheartedly and completely, but this hurts, and you are not helping, okay? Gomen, Temari-chan, Naruto said, calm down some. It's just, this is the most wonderful thing, and I really don't know what to do. Would it be better if I waited outside? No, it wouldn't, baka husband, she replied with a slight smirk. This is your moment too, I just need you to calm down some. I can do that, Naruto said seriously, accenting it with a firm nod of his head. You look so beautiful right now. I look like utter crap. Temari snarked back, unable to keep a smile from her face before groaning as another contraction hit. I'm serious, Naruto said, clasping her hand tightly with his and using his free hand to gently stroke her sweat-soaked hair from her face. You're even more beautiful now than you were on our wedding day. You are such a liar, Temari said with a chuckle, though any other retort was cut short when Tsunade noisily cleared her throat from the end of the bed. As touching as this is, she said with a mix of mild sarcasm and envy, perhaps my staff and I can get to work now. Oh, right, Naruto said with a light blush, squeezing Temari's hand again before getting up and backing away a few feet. Thank you, Tsunade said, rolling her eyes at Naruto's jittery behavior. Relax, Naruto, this is far from the first delivery I've done. No offense, Bachan, but aren't there specialized doctors for this? Naruto pointed out, getting a glare in return. I really don't mean to offend, but you and Shizen-chan are combat medics, not baby doctors. That's true, a partially mollified Tsunade conceded, motioning Shizen forward to assist her as she began working. But I do know what I'm doing, and if you think I would allow anyone else to deliver the first new member of our family, you would be sadly mistaken. Ah, so sweet. Naruto couldn't help but tease, getting a rare blush from Tsunade before she fixed him with a glare that wiped the smile right off his face. Sorry, Bachan, he said, shuffling nervously. It's still very sweet of you. He continued, recovering his nerve. Thank you. So Agaki, Tsunade said gruffly, unable to keep a slight smile from her own face. She pointedly ignored the chuckles coming from Shizen and Temari as she focused back on her work. Alright, looking good so far, fully dilated, and you've got wider hips, so even blockhead babies like Naruto should be easy. She was unable to resist at least some immediate payback. Hey! Temari said indignantly, before hissing in pain as another contraction hit. My hips are not that wide. In this case, better that they are. Shizen interjected kindly. It makes for a much easier delivery. Yes. Tsunade agreed distractedly as she continued to monitor Temari closely. It helps that you're older, your body more mature as well. If you were younger, like Sakura or Ino for example, I would be more concerned. She cut off mid-sentence and grimaced. Damn it, Shizen, we have a breach, she said curtly, causing Shizen to gasp. Get Naruto out of here and get the resident OBGYN here now. What? What's going on? Naruto demanded as Shizen grabbed his arm and dragged him towards the door with surprising force. A breach is when the baby is coming out other than head first. Shizen explained hurriedly, greatly simplifying it for Naruto's benefit. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, we need the space, so you can't stay in here, she said, more or less tossing him out the door before picking up the phone to page the requested staff. Hey! Naruto shouted, pounding on the door, after recovering from being tossed into a hall. Is Temari-chan going to be alright? Hey, answer me. Naruto, calm down, Kakashi commanded from where he was sitting near most of Naruto and Temari's friends. Carefully marking his place in his book, he stood up and strode over to Naruto, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. You trust Tsunade-sama, don't you? He asked with an eye smile. Yeah, I guess, Naruto said, slumping against the wall in resignation. It's just everything was going so well, and then boom, Tsunade freaks out and tells Shizen-chan to stick me out here and call in more doctors. She is going to be alright, isn't she, Kakashi-sensei? What do I do if she isn't? I promised Gaara I would protect her, but this isn't something that I can punch. What exactly did she say? Sakura asked, the designated spokeswoman for the group because of her connection to Naruto. While the rest of the Konoha 11 were fond of Naruto, even Niji in his own peculiar way, no one really wanted to press him in what appeared to be a very stressful moment. Even Kiba was subdued, remaining seated and slowly stroking Akamaru's fur. Almost as brash, stubborn and reckless as Naruto, his time working as a vet for his clan had given him a much better understanding and empathy for how Naruto must be feeling. She said it was a breach, Naruto replied to Sakura, slumping against the wall. That's not good, Sakura said as a team of doctors came racing by to be admitted to the delivery room by Shizen. There are often complications, but Tsunade-sama knows what she's doing. You have to believe that, Naruto. I know, Naruto said wearily. I know, and I do thank you all for coming, even if things haven't gone according to plan. He managed to force a smile, though most there wished he hadn't. Pale as he was, it gave him a somewhat feral air. I really appreciate you being here. It's cool, Kiba said shortly after getting smack upside the head by Hinata of all people. More understanding and empathy did not mean better word choice. I understand that it is the duty of friends to be there for another at important moments, Shino said seriously, pushing his shades tighter to his face as was his habit. I am glad that we could be here for you in your time of need. What he means to say, Naruto-kun, is that we are all here for you." Hinata managed to get out, only somewhat flustered. Ino remained sitting quietly, head hung, hands tightly clasped together in her lap. Per her clan's training, she saw the possible opportunity presenting itself, but the circumstances dismayed her greatly. She decided that yes, she did want Naruto, and this was a possible chance in the making, but she greatly liked and respected Temari. She wanted to join the family as it was, gaining not just a husband, but a sister as well. The most she could manage given the conflict within was to raise her head and give Naruto the most reassuring smile she could. She failed, completely and utterly, but most chalked it up to how close she was to Temari. "Perhaps a game of shogi would take your mind off?" Shikamaru suggested. "Not the best time, I agree, but it does help pass time more quickly." "Yeah," Choji said, backing up his best friend as always. "I've got a bag of chips for the winner. It probably beats walking a hole through the floor," Naruto said reluctantly, straightening from his place against the wall. "I doubt I'll be a very good opponent right now, but I guess you're on, Shikamaru." "That's the spirit, Naruto-kun," Lee said enthusiastically, thumbs up and teeth flashing before Tenten calmly smacked him and raised a finger to her lips. "Hospital Lee, remember?" Indoor voice. "Oh, very sorry, Tenten," Lee replied, just as enthusiastically, if much quieter. "For forgetting my manners, I must walk around the hospital 500 times on my hands, and if I cannot do that—" His voice trailed off as he set off to do another one of his crazy self-punishments, Guy following and quietly cheering his cherished pupil on. Unlike in the past, Niji had unwound enough that he rolled his eyes rather than glared disdainfully after the parting duo. "At least it should be quieter," he remarked sincerely, getting a nod of agreement from pretty much everyone there, even Naruto. As a Hyuga, he was still formal, but a small smile did appear as he spoke to Naruto. "I wish only for the best outcome, Naruto-san. I believe that Temari-san is both strong and a fierce fighter. You will not lose her this day. That actually means a great deal coming from you," Naruto said sincerely as Shikamaru pulled out his ever-present travel shogi kit and began setting up the board. Niji nodded his acknowledgement of the meaning behind Naruto's words, before a thought struck him. "Perhaps now you will refrain from dyeing my clothes pink, Naruto?" "It was that or your hair," Naruto replied. "I mean, I have no understanding of what you might mean, Niji-san. You've already played me back many times for my own indiscretion." Niji was very careful to avoid the word prank in his reply. "May I suggest the matter simply be considered resolved?" "I suppose we may," Naruto replied semi-formally as a courtesy to Niji. "Though that reminds me, I need to borrow you and your eyes sometime soon, I think." "What did you need?" "Something keeps tripping my perimeter security, but I can't figure it out, and neither can the foxes. I was hoping you might spot something." "Oh, the task seems simple enough. I could perform it now if you wish." "No, the estate is on lockdown right now. Trying to enter without me or another authorized person would be extremely unpleasant. Besides, I want to be there when you do." "As you wish," Niji replied with a restrained shrug. The offer was of course genuine, but he felt that his place at the moment was here with his comrades. Even now, it was sometimes hard to think of them as his friends, but they were, even if he sometimes had trouble calling them that even in his mind. Several hours passed, Naruto getting more and more tense, though to Shikamaru's chagrin, even distracted, Naruto still kept kicking his ass in shogi. It was amazingly unfair, he told himself. Naruto was barely even looking at the damn board, and seemed to be just randomly moving pieces, but every time it shut down something Shikamaru was planning. Not for the first time, Shikamaru wondered exactly how smart Naruto actually was. He himself was able to adapt on the fly to situations as needed, even if usually reluctantly, but Naruto was a master of improvisation. Of course, a great many of the things he did were crazy, but Shika forcibly reminded himself of the old saying, if it's crazy and it works, it's not crazy. He was pulled from his thoughts as the door opened and a tired-looking Shizen beckoned to Naruto, who rocketed out of his chair fast enough to knock it over. Entering the room, Naruto gasped in horror at the amount of blood, and the tired, battered look Temari had. He brightened up some when she managed to smile at him weakly. Hurrying across the room, he clasped her hands in his and sank down, head buried on her chest as he began to cry. "I thought I was going to lose you," he sobbed. Not generally a fan of men crying, Temari decided that this was a very special circumstance, one she approved of. There had always been a fear, buried deep down, that Naruto didn't actually love her, that he was just making the best of a bad situation. It wasn't something she ever talked about, and truly it only surfaced from time to time when she was feeling at her lowest, but these tears were not fake. They were the tears of a man that thought he'd lost everything, only to discover that he hadn't. She'd even forgive him for ignoring their children, if only just this once. Working a hand free of his grip, she raised it to stroke his face near his whisker marks, as always amazed at how soft his skin was because of his healing ability. "Naruto," she said hoarsely, "I'm very grateful that you are happy I'm still here, but aren't you forgetting something?" She nodded her head to where a cooing Tsunade was making faces at a bundle in her arms. "Right," Naruto exclaimed, shooting up and barely remembering to let Temari's hand go before he dragged her off the bed. He stopped, and looked at Temari uncertainly. He truly wanted to meet his children, but was unsure about leaving his wife in her condition. "Just go back, husband," Temari said fondly, unable to resist the urge to roll her eyes at him. "It's not like you're going far." Shooed away by Temari, Naruto carefully moved up to Tsunade and stood on his toes to peep into the bundle she was holding. Unfocused blue eyes matching his own met his, and Naruto was completely and utterly lost. In that instant, meeting one of his children for the very first time, Naruto understood love in its purest and simplest concept. He loved his wife, despite her rough spots and somewhat tsundere tendencies, but that relationship had taken time and effort to build. This was instant. "May I please?" he asked unsteadily, his voice nearly as shaky as he felt. Tsunade eyed him warily for a moment, seemingly trying to determine if it was safe to hand a newborn to the obviously rattled teen, but eventually handed her cargo over very carefully. Very, very carefully, Naruto accepted his child from Tsunade, copying how to hold his arms from what she had been doing. Finally getting a better look, he found himself barely able to breathe at the sheer beauty of his child. He drank in the little stub nose, the faint whisker marks on silky smooth cheeks, and the tuft of dark red hair with traces of gold mixed in. "So beautiful," he murmured unconsciously, getting a smile from Tsunade he never even noticed, so focused on the baby in his arms. "Is this Minato or Karura?" he asked softly, still unable to tear his gaze away. "This little beauty is Karura," Tsunade replied gently. "I think she's already got her daddy wrapped around her little fingers," she teased. "Oh, absolutely," Naruto breathed in response. "Absolutely. Tsunade-sama," one of the nurses called, breaking into the little world Naruto and Tsunade were floating in. "The scale isn't working." "What?" Tsunade nearly snarled at the interruption. "It just worked when we weighed Karura." "I know," the nurse replied calmly. "It is not working now though, Hokage-sama. We can probably use the one in the next room. It would certainly be faster than waiting on a replacement or repairs." "Fine," Tsunade agreed grumpily. She had an issue with things not working at the hospital, and this minor issue was holding up the entire family meeting each other. She was not pleased in the least, and someone was going to pay. Naruto was not a suspicious or paranoid person in general. For a shinobi there were times that he could be pretty damn naive, but something about the situation was bothering him. Though he had been thrown out of the room earlier, Yugao, as Temari's bodyguard, had remained positioned in the corner of the room. This had irritated Naruto, when he was tossed from the room and she wasn't, but he was glad she was here now. Jerking his head, he motioned Yugao to follow the nurse carrying his son, unwilling to take many chances even here in the heart of Konoha. Seemingly ignoring the byplay, though quietly approving of Naruto's actions, Tsunade cleared her throat as she tried to figure out how to tell Naruto her news. "Naruto, listen, there's something I have to tell you." "Bachan?" Naruto asked cautiously. There was an uncertain quality to her tone that he was not used to. "It's about Temari," she began. "This was a very hard birth, and it's going to have some effects on her." "Bachan?" Naruto repeated, frightened beyond the ability to think of something else to say. "No, it's not like that, Naruto," Tsunade said hurriedly to his relief. "With time, she'll recover and be okay, but there was some damage done, a lot of scarring we can't repair." "Bachan," Naruto said tersely. "Scars, damage, that doesn't mean much to me, tell me what it actually means." "Right," Tsunade said uncharacteristically nervous. "What it boils down to is that any future pregnancies for Temari will be very chancy." "Chancy how?" Naruto asked, eyes narrowed. "High probabilities of miscarriage," Tsunade replied evenly. "Increased risk of other complications. Basically, if the two of you want more children, She'll be forced to bed rest for the duration of the pregnancy. Oh, that really sucks, Naruto said, understating his feelings on the matter by a great deal. Have you told her yet? He asked, motioning with his head at his dozing wife. Yes, she knows, Tsunade replied. She said it might be worth it for more as beautiful as these two. No, Naruto said firmly. There is no way I would do that to her. She barely got through limited mobility this time. Cooping her up in bed for 9 months would be horrible. I simply couldn't do that to her, even if she asked me to. It's something for the two of you to discuss in the future anyway. Tsunade demurred. Speaking of the two of them, shouldn't that nurse be back by now? Naruto asked, handing his daughter off to Shizen, intending to investigate. Almost as soon as he finished handing Kurura off, a bloody blade stabbed through the wall connecting to the next room, and Naruto felt the blood freeze in his veins. Minato? He roared. Tsunade made a break for the door, but an enraged Naruto beat her to the punch and with a surge of chakra simply punched his way through the wall with a Rasengan. The IWA Kunoichi, still mostly in her disguise as a nurse, shrieked in terror at coming face to face with a visibly furious Naruto, a near spitting image of his father in the dim light. 2 other IWA shinobi lay dead on the floor, victims of Yugao's blade, but she'd been overwhelmed by numbers before she could finish them, and the disguised nurse had been just about to finish her off. Further enraged at the sight and without the time to draw any weapons, he shifted his hand as her kunai flashed towards Yugao's neck, and whipped out a very fine stream of wind chakra, slicing the IWA Kunoichi in half. Before the body even hit the floor, he darted towards the open window, catching a flash of someone rapidly retreating away from the hospital, carrying a bundle in their arms. Roaring in rage, Naruto smashed his way through the wall and began chasing after the dead fool, carrying his son away from him. Even as quick as she was, Tsunade barely made it into the room before Naruto made his own door through the outside wall, and she felt like tearing her hair out in frustration. Scooping the wounded Yugao up, she directed the arriving ANBU to assist Naruto before carrying Yugao into the delivery room and depositing her on the second bed in the room. A quick scan told her that Yugao was badly wounded, but would survive, so she turned her care over to the other doctors and began trying to sort out the mess that was going on. She didn't get far before a cry from Shizen alerted her to the fact that Temari was struggling to get out of bed, and she was forced to go deal with the enraged Uzumaki matriarch. My baby! Temari snarled as Tsunade physically pinned her to the bed. They have my son! Yes, they do, Tsunade snarled back. But Naruto is already pursuing, as are several ANBU squads, and you are no use to anyone if you are dead. Her words did nothing to stop Temari's attempts to escape, and Tsunade cursed as a cry from Shizen caused her to notice Temari was bleeding again. Fuck! Tsunade cursed as the sheets around Temari's legs began to turn crimson. It was obvious that Temari would continue to try and drag herself from her bed until she bleed out, so with reluctance, Tsunade used medical chakra to knock her out. She doubted Temari would forgive her for it any time soon, but she would settle for the girl being alive and hating her. Kuratsuchi frantically dashed across the rooftops of Konoha, putting all of her not inconsiderable strength into fleeing the wrath continuously closing the gap on her. With a great deal of relief, she managed to clear the gates and make it across the cleared grounds and into the woods before Naruto caught up with her. Though not a match for Leaf Ninja in a forest, many IWA ninjas spent a great deal of time learning how to move quietly and silently through woods because of that fact. She was forced to hide in a hurry as Naruto shot past her overhead, not thinking about using his sensor abilities, only reclaiming his son and maiming those responsible. Several minutes later, she was forced to hide again as several ANBU squads also sped by, these focused on the destruction left in Naruto's wake. At this point, she realized that it was extremely unlikely she would meet up with the recovery team alive, and frankly she doubted they would be alive much longer anyway. She'd warned her grandfather that pissing off the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was a bad idea, but the stubborn fool wouldn't listen. She'd hoped to avoid the orders she'd received by defecting to the Uzumaki clan, but she'd been refused. She'd really hoped he would take her up on the offer, she actually liked him, and she would have avoided being in this mess, but life was frequently a bitch. Checking the bundle in her arms, Kuro cursed when she realized that she had Naruto's son, not his daughter. The orders had been for the daughter, though she actively avoided thinking about what sort of fate would have been in store for her. Cursing at the mission again, Kuro turned back towards the village. She had several other ideas how she could escape this mess, and frankly, she didn't want to be anywhere near where Naruto was at present. Sooner or later, he was going to remember he was a censor, and then she was completely fucked. Hiroki was an experienced IWA Jonin, a survivor of the Third Ninja War, and more impressively, had survived Minato Namikaze. That was the story spun for the IWA public, though Hikori was secretly shamed by the fact his dead genin teammates had covered his body, saving his life. Still, after the war, IWA needed some sort of good news for the population, and Hiroki became a hero. Unlike many others, Hiroki had attempted to live up to his reputation, training continuously until he was considered to be one of the very best, the elite of IWA Jonin not affiliated with a clan. He'd argued strenuously against this mission, feeling that it was very unwise to make an enemy of Minato's son and heir to his jutsu. From every report he'd read, the boy was extremely unlikely to hold a grudge against IWA for the Third War. But this would make him an enemy for life. Still, orders were orders, and he'd done the absolute best he could to train the men assigned to the mission into a capable and coherent force. He'd received the signal indicating the mission was in progress, and had advanced his men to the rendezvous point, but for some reason, he had the strong suspicion that things had not gone well. When his sensors reported a very powerful chakra signature rapidly approaching their position, Hiroki simply knew who was coming, and he had the feeling he and his men would not be among the living for much longer. Ordering his men into their positions, he stepped forward to act as a lure, but even he was taken aback by the apparent reincarnation of Minato Namikaze that dropped into the clearing in front of him. There was a moment of shocked silence, as both sides studied their opponent before the battle began. Even as enraged as he was, Naruto cursed himself as 6 kinds of fool after he dropped down near the IWA encampment. While he was confident of his skills, the 20-odd Jonin in front of him might be a bit more than he could chew off. Unwilling to back off, not with what was at stake, Naruto drew his Kodachi, and created a small army of clones that leapt forward to attack, most screaming in rage. As an interesting side effect, Naruto himself felt a great deal calmer after creating the clones, and he began to analyze the attacks of the IWA Jonin as they tore into his clones in a panic. Blending into the still swarming clones, Naruto nimbly dodged several errant rock spears before a quick backhand with his Kodachi tore open the throat of one of the IWA Jonin, the man thrashing and clamping his hands to his neck in the brief moments before he died. In other locations, several other IWA Jonin were tag-teamed by groups of clones and rapidly removed from the fight. While he generally preferred a less lethal combat approach, tonight the IWA ninja learned exactly how lethal Naruto could be if pressed. Spotting a Jonin holding his own against the clones using a very impressive mobile shield of rock, Naruto eased through the fighting until he was close enough to whip several chakra string-guided wind blades through the shield and completely through the man behind it. In other times, Naruto might have noted the shocked expression on the man's face as he was literally sliced into pieces. Hiroki was not having a good night. No matter how hard his men fought, there was a seemingly never-ending army of orange-coated figures, and while none of them had used the Hiraishin yet, he was in awe of the many absurdly powerful jutsu that were being used. Pulling the 2 squads remaining to him back, Hiroki began issuing orders attempting to withdraw when a sound behind him caused him to whirl and around in disbelief. To his shock and horror, there were even more of those damn clones behind his men, and several of them were charging what had to be the Rasengan, only these made the original one look like a child's toy. Darting forward, the clones began delivering their near-beach ball-size payload with incredible quickness. Hiroki barely had time to scream before a clone plunged the energized chakra ball through his chest, the pain excruciating as it ate away at nerves before death finally took him. Wiping his Kodachi clean before resealing it, Naruto scowled at the dead ninja scattered over the clearing before releasing his clones. Despite his best efforts, he hadn't gotten out of the fight unscathed. Several bloody cuts marked his coat, and he wondered how long it would take to heal the huge gash ripped out of his shoulder. It seemed that Temari was right in that old argument about the vest. Several jagged, ugly splinters of rock were stuck in it, and if the vest hadn't stopped them, they would have really hurt, possible even slowed him down enough that he wouldn't have won his fight without drawing on the fox. Turning to leave, he caught a brief flash of familiar chakra, causing his face to twist in disgust. Danzo. He doubted the old buzzard was behind this. The old warhawk would never allow IWA to acquire Namikaze or Uzumaki bloodlines, but he'd just shown pretty much all of his abilities to one man he didn't want to know. For his part, Danzo was re-evaluating several of his plans in light of the marked increase in combat skills of the Jinchuriki. Given the one-sided nature of the fight between a full company of Jonin IWA shinobi and the vessel, he had been correct in his belief that the vessel was not actually worthless. As it was, if the boy could be steered away from Hiruzen's methods, it was possible the boy might even make a fine Hokage someday. Of course, someone would have to teach him. Perhaps it was time to try the carrot, and not the stick. Ignoring the ANBU arriving to secure the scene, Naruto began slowly making his way towards the village, scanning as far and wide as he possibly could. His son was somewhere nearby, and he would not stop until he found Minato, and when he did, whoever had him was going to suffer before they died.